Hello and welcome to Six Part and start a new series. What if Deku had a magical harem? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Ladybug raced past the Grand Paris Hotel as the magic yo-yo encircled yet another chimney. The spotted hero headed toward the Eiffel Tower, waving at Chloe Bourgeois, the young blonde troublemaker and top fan. As she got closer to her destination, she let out a sigh. For the past month, every day had been the same. Get up, check the tower, go to school, check the tower, complete your homework, and, last but not least, check the tower. The appearance of such a magical object was not common. She was wearing an earpiece that rang. "Bugaboo, are you there yet?" Ladybug let out a sigh. "Not yet, kitty, just another kilometer," she answered. "Don't you think this is weird?" The male voice on the other end of the line said. "I'm half expecting a flying blue box to come flying out of that thing every day. It appears to be quite innocuous. So are 10-year-olds until their parents leave them alone for 5 minutes, and trust me on that one. Besides, it's a real quick check before we start the day worrying about that stupid thing," she replied. "We just have to deal with it until it's gone. Also, I never pegged you as a Doctor Who fan. Really, what can I say? I adore the show." When Ladybug arrived at her destination, she grinned. The Eiffel Tower stood tall and magnificent in the center of Paris. Even after the heroes repeatedly destroyed it, the tower continued to stand as a perfect representation of the city of love. It had endured everything: rain, snow, earthquakes, and apocalypses. But Ladybug wasn't here for its beauty today. A bright, blue object shimmered in and out of existence high above the tower. Temporal energy ignited a rift in space that was only discernible to those standing directly beneath it. Periodically, the tear vanished from the world, resembling the strange crack in a window. And it was dangerous even though, happily, very few people noticed. The appearance of a hole in the universe high above their beloved landmark was the last thing anyone needed to cause a riot in half of the city. Although it was initially thought to be the work of the Akuma at the time, the Miraculous pair soon discovered two things. 1. No Akuma that Moth could produce would have the ability to open a rift and simply leave it there, and 2. Their Kwami was the reason they were able to locate it in the first place. Since then, they have alternately checked on it to make sure nothing was actually shooting out of it. Ladybug started to fear what was going to happen today as she ascended it. Marinette remained at the top of her torture emotionally until the end of time list, even though she recently made peace with Chloe as Ladybug. The fact that said list existed at all is wonderful. Even remarkable. She reached the spire and looked up at the rift. It wasn't active that day, as was to be expected. With a sigh of relief, she pressed into the earpiece where she was speaking to her partner. "Hey kitty, nothing to report over here. Honestly, if it's not going to be active at all, why bother showing up?" "I say that about attending school every day," her partner remarked. "It's unbelievable that I once genuinely wanted to attend school." Ladybug chuckled. "All right kitty, no activity at the rift for right now. I'll check back in the afternoon and see where we will g." The rift appeared to explode before she could finish her thought. Lightning blazed through the sky, and multicolored energy erupted from all around the rift. The rumbling of the ground beneath her feet undoubtedly warned those below of what was going on. Only 3 seconds had passed before someone started to scream. The rift had been noticed by someone below. A burst of energy hit the ground she had been standing on before, and Ladybug leapt out of the way. Everyone was terrified as absolute power raged across the sky. The heroine's attention was drawn to a very specific bolt of energy that shot through the sky. After passing through the sky, the bolt landed in the center of the Palais de Chaillot on the other side of the Seine. Ladybug pressed on the communicator, panic rushing through her. "Cat Noir, meet me at the palace. People might be hurt." "I'm on my way," was his first reaction. Leaping from the observation deck, Ladybug slid down on one of the numerous steel beams that led to the bottom. Her gaze was fixed on the spot where the energy bolt landed. Anyone could be in grave danger if the palace was packed with people, especially tourists. She leapt from the tower and used her magic yo-yo to launch herself across the bridge, now close enough to the ground. She could make out her partner coming down on the scene in the distance. Fortunately, when he needed to move quickly, he did so. Her worst fear came true as soon as she arrived at the scene. 2 teenagers were lying face down on the ground at the exact location of the lightning strike. For some reason, one of them, who appeared to be a boy, was protecting the person underneath. He must have believed that he could remove them and replace them with the bolt head. The boy was dressed in a dark green jumpsuit, large white gloves, and bandages on his arms. He had on green pants that matched and what appeared to be armored shin guards. His outfit also included his large, vivid red shoes. Her superhero best friend and justice partner, Cat Noir, knelt down nearer to the child. "LB, look at his clothes. Weird, isn't it?" says the cat wearing skin-tight leather. She smiled in response. The heroes above him reacted when the green teenager moved a little. He stepped aside to make room for the second teen who was beneath him. She appeared to be wearing the puffiest pair of boots either of them had ever seen, along with a skin-tight pink jumpsuit with circular braces on her wrists. It also appeared that she was wearing an odd-looking helmet. Neither of the heroes knew who they were. Cat Noir reached out to them. "Hey, you guys all right?" The boy reached for Cat Noir's hand as the girl regained consciousness. "Thanks, but what are you doing here?" "This villain is tearing the city apart," he replied. Ladybug and Cat looked at each other. What villain?" The boy lifted his head and looked directly into Cat's eyes. "Whoa, you're a cat." The girl got up when the boy leapt backward. "Whoa, your hair looks so cute," exclaimed the girl. Ladybug grinned. Cat and the green boy, meanwhile, kept staring at one another. "You look like a cat," the boy said. "You look like a green bunny," Cat remarked. The pink-clad girl made contact with her friend. "Deku, where are we?" "Well, I don't hear Kachan yelling at me, so nowhere near school, but where?" The girl's eyes widened as she glanced past Ladybug. She took off her helmet so her hair could air out. "We're in Paris. We're in France." Deku, the boy, turned to face the tower. "Deku, we were just at UA just a second ago. How did we get here?" Ladybug inquired. "What's UA?" A loud splash followed by a crash cut off their conversation before she could respond. The two teenagers were instantly seized by Cat Noir, who yanked them away. The Seine was the source of the splash. Ladybug ran to the river, where a wooden galleon was sailing over the bridge on what appeared to be a soda river. A loud voice from the ship said, "Yo ho ho and a bottle of cola. You can't stop me from enjoying my cola, Paris." Ladybug thought to herself, "You must be joking." She sprinted back to Cat Noir, who was attempting to push the teenagers away. She yelled, "Akuma! You two, get out of here." Cat gave the two a radiant smile. "Welcome to Paris, guys," he said. "Stay down and let us take care of the Akuma." The Miraculous pair then launched themselves into pursuit of Hawkmoth's most recent victim. Deku turned to his friend as they were out of sight. "We gotta help." The girl said, "Deku, you can get to them more quickly." Deku paused to reflect. His face was burning red as he thought. Although it was new to them, it was the most effective way for them to catch up. Full cowling was charged up to his usual 8%. "Uraraka, I have an idea, to get us closer." Uraraka, the girl, knew what he was going to say. She blushed too, but she nodded sympathetically. "Got it. Hang on tight, okay? I've never tried this before," he grinned. Midoriya was resourceful even though he was unable to leap over buildings with a single bound like his hero, All Might. Bakugo, the young green hero, followed in the footsteps of Gran Torino and his childhood friend who later became his rival by jumping off buildings to catch up to the heroes he had just encountered. Even with his friend and crush on his back, it was easy. "Are you okay, Uraraka? That villain earlier seemed to have been gunning for you," she replied. "He was after all of us. I'm more worried about that ship that flew by. Looked old," she said. "Are villains here just as weird as ours?" "Don't know, but I've never seen those two before in any hero textbook. They look familiar?" The girl gave a headshake. To keep her from using her quirk or power on him, she put her hands around his chest, pinkies up. "Those two seem very nice." "The ladybug-looking one had beautiful hair," said Uraraka. Midoriya grinned. "I thought you were going to gush over the cat guy," he said. Uraraka used his free hand to playfully slap his chest. Midoriya had seen the ship that had passed by earlier as he dashed across the rooftops. Indeed, the galleon was riding a wave of what appeared to be soda. As the captain of the ship ran around the deck, a faint bell could be heard ringing wildly. "We need to get up there. Ready?" Uraraka activated her quirk on Midoriya by nodding and letting her pinkies fall. They flew through the air as he leapt into the air with full cowling. Something plastic appeared to strike Midoriya's ankle as they got closer to the ship. He looked down and saw a yo-yo wrapped around it with a ladybug motif. "What the ah?" Ladybug was being pulled through the air after she unintentionally hooked onto a couple that defied gravity down below. The last thing Marinette anticipated when she awoke that morning was precisely what was happening. She had no intention of saving a teenage couple from a lightning strike caused by a rift in time and space, nor did she anticipate unintentionally catching hold of them as they flew in the direction of the Akuma. Hell, it was meant to be an ordinary, dull day. A typical school day was supposed to end with her obsessing over Adrian in her room, followed by an Akuma, light patrol, and a nightcap with family. She was worried about how to approach Adrian about some movie tickets she won from a radio show, and at the very least, she expected to argue with Chloe once more at school. However, the universe simply had to introduce a temporal and spatial rift into her life. Here she was, the miraculous ladybug, the symbol of creation and the hero of Paris, flying through the air against her will while pursuing a soda-obsessed Akuma. Cat Noir used his staff to navigate to the ship while she flew through the air. As they caught up to the gravity-defying pair, he gave a small chuckle. Uraraka reversed the effects of her quirk as they flew over the ship's deck. She clasped her hands together and let go of both. Meanwhile, Deku pulled Ladybug up and onto the ship with his strength. Deku said, "You alright?" Ladybug gave them both a look. "You guys can fly?" Cat Noir was the next to arrive before they could respond. "Excuse me, Captain. Is this the flight to Barcelona? I've never been there before," he said. The captain turned to them, traumatized. She had on a bright red jacket with a white sash and blue undershirt underneath. Several brands of cola bottle caps were pinned to her enormous maroon hat. A fancy, engraved bottle opener and a glass bottle of cola were fastened to her belt. As she met Ladybug's gaze, her eyes grew wide. "What the, stowaways, you'll pay for boarding my ship? No one boards Captain Cola's ship without permission." She kicked the deck. "Get up here, you half-drunk dyed tears." Clanking bottles sounded from below deck as a hatch door flew open. Human-shaped soda bottles emerged from underneath and charged at the sword-wielding heroes. The heroes recoiled at the sound of the glass marching. Cat Noir was charged by one of the bottles. With haste, he raised his staff to meet its sword swing. He exclaimed, "I don't think they're friendly." Swords were drawn as more bottles materialized and surrounded the teenagers. Ladybug cautioned, "Don't break them, because they might be akumatized people." One of the bottles lunged at Uraraka, its sword ready to strike, as she spoke. Her experience from her internship with Gunhead back home began to take effect once it was close enough. She sidestepped and took hold of the bottle's wrist. She disarmed the bottle with a quick snap, then used her momentum to lift it over her shoulder and smash it into the floor. No. Its back was effectively cracked when the bottle person crashed into the deck. The creature completely stopped moving and vanished into black smoke, leaving behind some broken glass and soda that was still fizzy. As the bottle faded, Ladybug gazed. Since they would have gotten up, it couldn't have been a human. The glass bottles drew their swords and gazed at one another. Raising her new sword, Uraraka deflected another bottle's overhead blow. Deku grabbed the blade of another bottle and charged full cowling. Bewildered, Ladybug unwrapped her yo-yo and lunged towards the akumatized victim. "Let's dance, Captain." Grinning, Captain Cola started to extract a real glass soda bottle by the neck from inside her coat. The bottle grew larger as she pulled it out more and more. The bottle quickly grew to the size of a 2-liter plastic bottle. There was a neatly tucked piece of white candy beneath the bottle cap. She tapped at its neck with her bottle opener and lifted it onto her shoulder. The candy inside fell into the soda after becoming dislodged. The drink inside reacted instantly, creating pressure. When Captain Cola opened the bottle and sprayed Ladybug with extremely fizzy soda, she ducked out of the way. In the interim, a lone man in a dark purple suit and mask stood with a beam of sunlight draped over him on the opposite side of the city, isolated from everyone, even the heroes. He used his abilities to sympathetically connect with Captain Cola, his newest Akuma. She was definitely feeling something negative. Unfortunately, although Ladybug and Cat Noir, his adversaries, were drawn to his Akuma, the two new heroes were more interested in her. Unusual. Two brand new heroes to face a small Akuma. "Ladybug. What are you planning?" he considered. Grasping the cane in his right hand, he considered his next course of action. "I don't sense any miraculous magic from them, and they're not in the grimoire. Who are you two?" He let out a sigh. Complications to his simpler plans were something he detested. He extended his hand to his Akuma. "Captain Cola, these new heroes are not as excited about your love for cola as you are. I think it's time for you to pour them a glass and show them how a true fan expresses their interests," she heard him say. "Just remember our deal. Or else I will remove your powers." Captain Cola grinned as he flew over Paris, high above the city. "Of course, Hawkmoth. I will win against them all and celebrate with a beautiful can of cola. Raise a glass to my victory," she yelled. With her yo-yo ready, Ladybug hurried the Akuma. Deku was right behind her, determined to defeat them and, ideally, learn more about their situation. Aiming for her enormous soda bottle weapon, Ladybug threw her yo-yo at the captain. After avoiding the initial attack, the good captain retaliated with another soda blast. It was swiftly and successfully avoided by the heroes, and soda flew from the ship. The supply of soda inside the bottle appeared along with another bottle cap as soon as the cap was popped and the soda was launched. She had plenty of ammunition to last her a while. Deku looked around. She had roughly 2 more opportunities to hit them with her soda before either of them brought her down, given the speed at which they were approaching. She also reloaded almost instantly. She could make more room against them, assuming that one soda attack would cause them to change direction a little. Deku was closing in when Captain Cola fired again, almost missing this time. "Gotcha!" he exclaimed, advancing toward the bottle. Regretfully, she reloaded faster than he did. As soon as the captain fired, a second bottle cap materialized, and Deku was struck in the chest by its force. The force of it sent him bouncing off the ship's railing and into 2 of the hostile bottles that were harassing Cat Noir. He went overboard. As she cut down another bottle, Uraraka saw right away. Another one appeared by the hatch where they had come from, and it vanished. Deku. 2 hostile bottles blocked her path to the location from which he was blasted. She sidestepped to dodge an attack from a free bottle and raised to block an overhead blow. She brought the bottle's sword down with her as she lowered her guard. Her quirk was triggered by a quick slap from her hand, which caused the bottle's lack of gravity to launch it into the air. Uraraka, who was now more vulnerable, attacked the other bottle. She was being approached by more, but her preparation paid off. She deflected 2 blows from 2 different adversaries, kicked one into the sails above her, and used her quirk on another. To avoid another surprise attack, she leapt backward. Captain Cola and Ladybug, meanwhile, were practically dancing around one another. The captain said, "Don't suppose you're getting thirsty, aren't you?" She joked, "Not really, not a cola fan really, I'm a bit in the mood for some tea though." The captain yelled, "You take that back," as she launched another assault. Ladybug's yo-yo and innate agility allowed her to move quickly. She caught a glimpse of her partner hurling bottles into the numerous posts and across the ship. He said, "Well, I know I'm going to take a break from soda," while removing 2 bottles from their feet. "I just got a cavity just by looking at you." The captain snarled. Ladybug was too close for her to fire, but she managed to pop the top of her soda cannon once more. Ladybug interrupted the firing sequence by punching the bottle cap rather than reaching for the captain. The candy inside had already fallen off the top and was submerged in the soda. A tremendous amount of pressure started to build, and the cap refused to come off. Captain Cola quickly threw the bottle overboard while juggling it like a hot potato. Fortunately, she did so at the appropriate moment. The weapon exploded as soon as the bottle flew overboard, splattering extra fizzy soda all over her ship's side. With a terrified scream, she took off her enormous hat and started to fan the side. Ladybug ran to the spot where Deku flew overboard while the captain was momentarily preoccupied. He was still holding on to the ship. One fist smashed into the wooden hull, and she was shocked to see this. Deku kept staring down at the world below while yelling, "I've never been this high before." Ladybug jumped down the ship's hull and attached her yo-yo to the side. "Come here," she exclaimed, reaching out to touch him. Deku raised his gaze to her. Fortunately, she wasn't being cautious with him or acting hostilely toward him. He grabbed her hand with his free, and she lifted him back up to the deck. The ship banked to the right as soon as he was on board. "Huzzah! My target be upon the horizon." All of the heroes fled to the opposite side of the ship. The school that Ladybug and Cat Noir attended was her target. Though they are obviously unsure, prepare the cannons. The sounds of heavy cast iron cannons rolled into position, sending a wave of panic through the resident heroes. They believed it to be cast iron, anyway. Upon closer examination, it was discovered that the cannons were actually enormous glass cola bottles filled with candies. They now understood that if her heavy fire weapons affected the school, the results would be catastrophic. Fire. Like the sound of the cannons that heralded the revolution so many years ago, the ship exploded with cannon fire. As the projectile, a massive piece of white candy with a soda tail, flew toward the school's courtyard. Ladybug and Cat Noir watched. A student-filled courtyard. Ladybug jumped from the ship. She yelled, "Cat Noir, try to get her to stop." After joking, "Maybe if I'll bat my eyes, she'll see the error of her ways," he launched himself at the captain, who had since recovered from the initial explosion of her shoulder-mounted so. She had another soda cannon mounted on her shoulder. Captain Cola fired her weapon as Ladybug jumped off the ship in an attempt to apprehend the endangered civilians. Drink up, kitty. The initial attack barely missed Deku, but Cat Noir and Uraraka escaped. It's a tangible item. As Ladybug stormed into the school, she was able to gather a number of pupils and direct them to their classrooms. Get in, quick, she yelled. Fortunately, every student had paid attention. Only Ladybug's civilian best friend Aaliyah, her boyfriend Nino, and her acquaintance Chloe weren't fleeing for their lives. They were all occupied assisting students with their evacuation. Aaliyah was about to follow the last student out when a specific burst of cannon fire erupted behind her. The ship of Captain Cola was pointed in her direction. She braced herself for the blow, but Ladybug swooped in faster and carried her off her feet. Aaliyah sighed with relief as Ladybug swung to the opposite side of the school. When she said, "Talk about close calls, I figured you were on that ship." Ladybug grinned as they touched down. "I'm surprised you're not asking me for a full-time job," she replied. "Oh no, I'll do that later." Ladybug. "Why are there 2 new heroes on that ship? Couldn't find the time to give me a shot?" she said. Ladybug gave a nose boop. Aaliyah grinned as she threw her yo-yo back toward the ship and swung away, saying, "Questions later. Now. You bunker down until it's dealt with. Go get him, Marinette." Uraraka and Deku were fighting the bottle villains back-to-back when she reappeared. Cat Noir was engaged in combat with both the helmsman and Captain Cola, who was constantly shooting at him with her soda cannon. When she said, "Time to wrap this up," she shouted her magical incantation while tossing her yo-yo into the air. Lucky Charm. Before making her new Lucky Charm, a 10-foot-long bungee cord with a Velcro harness, magic whirled around the battlefield. She wondered, a bungee cord? What am I supposed to do with this? Somehow, Cat Noir approached her, deflecting the soda cannon every time the captain fired with his staff. "I hope you got a plan, Bugaboo, otherwise we'll be walking the plank," he said. While Cat Noir continued to protect them both, Ladybug looked around. The bungee cord and the ship, as well as Cat Noir and Captain Cola, appeared to be compatible. She grinned as the plan came to her naturally. "I got it, Cat Noir, I need a distraction," she replied. With a sly smile, Cat Noir let his guard down and lunged towards the captain. After that, she looked at the 2 new heroes. "You two, with me." From the tiny group of bottles, the 2 new heroes emerged. They would have enough breathing room to implement Ladybug's plan if so many of them were damaged at once. Ladybug's reluctance to use them subsided once they were with her. They could have easily defended themselves. "Okay, I'm going to plant the bungee cord. I think I know what to do," she started saying. But Deku was fully aware of her plans. He turned to Ladybug and took the harness end of it. For a brief moment, neither of them said anything, but they were both aware of the plan. "Uraraka, I'll need your help to get out there," he replied. Uraraka devised the strategy. It was absurd, but Deku had rarely disappointed her in the past. She trusted him with everything, with the exception of her private feelings, but that was a different story. She nodded understandingly and grinned. Cat Noir was getting closer to Captain Cola as they controlled Deku. "Ready for your morning dose, kitty?" she yelled at him. Cat swerved easily and got closer. "Has anyone ever told you that cats and cola don't really work well together?" He approached too closely. The bottle of Cat Noir was within reach. Cataclysm. Dark, destructive energy glowed in Cat Noir's ring hand. He used his power to seize the bottleneck and send destructive energy through it before the captain could fire again. The candy fell into the soda after becoming dislodged. The pressure inside increased because the captain's bottle opener was broken. "But I'll hold off on getting some soda until lunch," he said. The captain ran to the ship's edge and threw the bottle overboard while juggling it like a hot potato. The bottle burst, seriously damaging the hull once more. She then attempted to beat the hot fizz with her hand once more. Uraraka was prepared to use her quirk while Deku was strapped in on the opposite side of the ship. "Uraraka, I need to go pretty far out," he replied. Uraraka grinned. She said, "I can get you pretty far, Deku. Consider it my ultimate move," and then she used her gift. "Wait, wah?" He felt weightless all of a sudden. Uraraka caught him as he floated in midair and lifted him above her head. With a serious smile, she stepped back a few paces. This was what she had always wanted to do. "Wait, you're gonna throw me?" Uraraka started her spring without saying another word. After observing the two at work for a year and a half, Ladybug wondered if she had done that to Cat Noir. The short answer is, yes. Long answer, absolutely. Uraraka exclaimed, "Deku toss," in her final move. Uraraka threw him away from the ship and across the sky after putting her back into it. Deku abruptly stopped when he ran out of cord. Simultaneously, one of the cannons turned away from the school and pointed at him. Ladybug exclaimed, "Wait, that wasn't what I was planning." The captain looked away from the hole in her ship and saw that Deku was close to the cannon. "Don't fire." Fire was apparently the key word. Time seemed to slow down for everyone as the cannon fired at Deku. Deku shifted his weight to meet the projectile that was coming toward him and charged up full cowling. One for all, 8%. Nearer. Full cowling. Nearer, shooting style. Deku swung his leg out strategically, preparing his final move. The enormous piece of candy was sent back toward its sender when his shin made contact with it. As the candy sailed through the air and toward the ship's bow, the captain, Ladybug, and Cat Noir looked on in horror. As soon as the candy hit the ground, Ladybug grabbed Uraraka and Dove. The crash made a very loud noise. The bottle minions, or the remaining minions, were thrown off the ship and in the direction of the school as the entire ship rocked back and forth. "Your friend is nuts," yelled Ladybug. Uraraka grinned. "Should have seen him during our entrance exam. Broke both of his legs and right arm trying to save me," she replied. The look on Ladybug's face was indescribable and incredible. Pressing her fingers together, the gravity girl did so. Release. She then applied pressure to the wooden deck with both hands. "I hope this works." On the ground, Deku regained his gravity and he fell to the roof of the school. He ran to keep up with the ship, full cowling still in full effect, the cord in his hands. It had to work, even though it was going to be very challenging. He continued running until he came to a raised platform. He braced himself off the platform and pulled as hard as he could after hitting it. Everyone on board was startled by the abrupt halt. Her bottle opener fell down the stairs and into Cat Noir's hands when Captain Cola struck the ship's helm. She still hadn't processed it. The ship's momentum almost tore him apart, causing his muscles to strain. But it had been successful. Deku was the ship's anchor, and it had no gravity. Uraraka grinned. He was a really solid and powerful base. That was one of the traits she admired the most about him. She continued to shake off the admiration, even though it was already changing into another feeling. Ladybug and Uraraka stood up once the ship had stabilized. "Bugaboo!" exclaimed Cat Noir. "Bottoms up." He threw the bottle opener in her direction. "Aw, thank you, kitty, and it's engraved too." Uraraka didn't admire it. Instead, she saw Ladybug use her bare hands to shatter the metal fragment. A tiny black butterfly flew out of the pieces after they were broken apart and started to flee. "No more evil doing for you, little Akuma," she said, opening her yo-yo. Winding up her shot, she started. "Time to de-evilize." She threw her yo-yo at the butterfly, skillfully catching it and drawing it back to her before shutting it off. "Gotcha." She opened the yo-yo once more by pressing a button. "Bye-bye, little butterfly." Deku leapt back onto the ship and undid his straps while she purified the butterfly. Ladybug thanked him after he gave her the bungee cord. "Miraculous Ladybug," she exclaimed as she tossed the cord into the air. Millions of tiny ladybugs appeared as the object vanished and miraculously fixed everything around them. It cleared away the glass bottle fragments that littered the school's floor and the harm caused by the cannons. The ladybugs flew through the ship, carrying them back to the banks of the Seine where the ship originally came from. Captain Cola changed back into a young girl, most likely around the ages of 13 or 14, and the enormous galleon changed back into a tiny motorboat. Her eyes were dark and her hair was light brown. She looked up with a dazed expression. Where am I?" Cat Noir and Ladybug turned to face one another and gave each other a fist bump. "Pound it." They then turned to face the two heroes who were positioned behind them. Ladybug's face changed to one of professionalism and concern. "Right then, and you are?" "In the world of my hero." Mina Ishido saw that all of the girls were stretching outside their rooms after a restful night's sleep as she shuffled through the dorm hallway, her eyes crusty from staying up late going over Aizawa's extra credit notes. "Mina, can you keep it down a little bit? You nearly kept me up with your not-so-quiet profanity," said Momo Yaoyorozu. "You'd be doing the same thing if you were sacked with a ton of extra credit work after nearly failing that last exam," she screamed. Momo gave her pink friend a smile. She said, "I offered to help you with the exam, but you declined. Next time I'll be sure to remain stubborn and persistent. Come on, let's get some food already," as she walked slowly to the elevator. "If Mineta says another damn joke about my sleeping bottoms being very tight around my butt, I will melt him," said Mina. Sue was awesome knocking him down a peg. As they got closer to the elevator, Momo grinned. The door to Ochako's room was open as they passed it. Mina's focus swiftly turned inside as they went by and discovered her friend was not there. She said, "Hey, hold on a second," and carefully opened Ochako's door. This particular girl wasn't in her room. The briefcase containing her hero outfit was missing from the side of her bed and her sheets were a mess. Momo went into the room with her friend and looked around. She whispered, "Now that's not right." Her phone was in her pocket when she reached for it. She paused, then pulled out her contact list. Maybe she just went to the mess hall? Mina gave a shrug. She let out a loud gasp. Why take her case? Unless we have another day of quirk testing. Momo grinned. "Come on, I'm hungry," she pleaded. After leaving the room, the two shut the door. They discovered some of the guys eating breakfast at a table as they made their way to the first floor. With the exception of Mineta, the grape hero in training, he was hurled across the room while bound with tape. Sitting at the table, Jiro was also clearly upset as she jabbed at her cereal bowl. Momo started preparing her breakfast while Mina stuck her tongue out at Mineta. "Hey, did anyone see Ochako come by here?" "She left her room open and her hero suit is gone," she stated. Jiro said, "She's not here." Denki Kaminari, the aspiring electricity hero, caught her attention. The boy shrugged and carried on eating. "She probably left early to train or something." "Then she would have said something. It's not like her to disappear without letting someone know," Momo said. "I was thinking of calling her but I thought she was here." "Then call her, see where she is. And ask her if she knows where Midoriya is because his room is empty," said Tokiyami. "All I saw this morning was his All Might figurines staring at me through a crack in his door." Jiro suppressed a laugh while Momo began to call Ochako. "Why? If Ochako and Midoriya are both missing, and it's still early." "Oh no," Mina essentially exploded when she said, "Then they're on a top secret date and they didn't bother to tell us. I called it, you all owe me 3,000 yen? Momo hung up her phone with a sigh. "The line is dead, and I tried Midoriya's phone too. Went straight to voicemail," she stated. 4,000 yen then. "Mina," exclaimed Jiro. "Seriously? Our friends are missing and you're worried about a bet? Besides, we don't know if they're romantically together." As soon as everyone finished their breakfast, Tokiyami started discarding it. "Should we talk to Aizawa-sensei about all this? If he calls us in for a lesson and they don't show, it's not going to be good for all of us." Momo had already started working on it. A tiny radio that Kaminari had connected to the common area interrupted their conversation as she went back to the elevator to go up to Aizawa's room to inform him of the situation. "Unclear if the damage sustained will be cleaned up before your drive this morning." Again, a surprise villain attack prompted the response of two young heroes, possibly from the UA's 1A class. "Wait, one moment." Everyone gathered to listen in on the radio. "We have received word from several independent witnesses that the two heroes that appeared were Izuku Midoriya of Class 1A and Ochako Uraraka of Class 1A. At this time, authorities can confirm that the two were permitted to respond to this villain's attack, however they are unreachable at this time. We will continue to bring you more updates as they surface." The elevator door opened to reveal a very irritable Aizawa-sensei standing inside as the newscast came to an end and a commercial played. His piercing gaze was fixed on the small group of students gathered around the common area. He whispered, "Where are they?" In the universe of Miracles, Ladybug and Cat Noir were both poised in front of the two new heroes. The professional heroes were prepared to reprimand Deku and Ochako. "You guys don't have Miraculouses and I don't remember opening a magical comic book, so you must have come from somewhere," Ladybug concluded. Cat Noir relaxed his body. He held his hand out to Ochako and said, "You two are pretty cool, anyways. I'm Cat Noir, the coolest cat in town." Ochako and Midoriya both bowed rather low rather than shaking hands. One of them said, "Nice to meet you." Ladybug grinned. "You're Uraraka, right? I heard your friend call you by that name," she said. Ochako nodded and grinned. "Hero name, Uravati, and your hero name is Ladybug? It's to the point, right?" Deku gave a nod. "It's short, easy to remember and I'm sure your agency believes the same too." "Agency?" inquired Cat. "What agency?" Uraraka appeared perplexed. "Your agency. You're pro-heroes, right? What agency do you both have?" The two heroes exchanged glances. Abruptly, the sound of fast beeping alerted them both. A worried expression crossed Ladybug's face as her hand shot to her earrings. "I'm about to transform. We're talking about this later," she urgently declared. "Yep, gotta go. I can't be late, bug out." Ladybug and Cat Noir then leapt from where they were and swung, vaulted away in different directions. The pair watched them disappear into the sky before turning to the former akumatized villain. The young girl appeared confused and dazed. Ochako came over and assisted her in standing. "Hey, are you okay?" The girl's gaze expanded. Who are you?" She was introduced to the two heroes. The girl marveled at their uniforms and squealed. "They look so comfortable. You look like a rabbit with the hood." Midoriya thanked the girl, blushing. "If you don't mind me asking, how did you create that giant ship?" asked he. "Bending space and reality to build a galleon from a motorboat is incredible." The girl gave him a perplexed look. "I had a ship? Oh God, was I just akumatized?" The two heroes exchanged glances. "What does that mean?" Uraraka asked. "You mean you don't remember flying through the sky on a ship?" The girl gave a headshake. "It's been happening for a little over a year. A supervillain named Moth came to town looking for. I forget. But, like, Ladybug and Cat Noir appeared soon after and challenged him. They keep the city safe against him," she continued. "But aren't there other heroes in town? There's gotta be a hero agency around here, right?" Deku pondered. He thought to himself, "I feel uneasy about this." The girl was perplexed. "A hero agency? Are you saying that heroes work for a living somewhere?" Her phone started vibrating before she could continue. She glanced at the screen and bolted upright. "Oh saints, I'm late for school." She sprinted to the motorboat, picked up her backpack, and fled the dock. "Thank you again," she yelled. Uraraka turned to her friend after she had left. "Deku, I think we're in trouble. There's no hero agency here whatsoever?" The boy with green hair gave a nod, "But that's not possible." Uraraka noticed a trash can with a newspaper on the rim while he considered their next course of action. Grabbing the paper, she looked for any evidence of additional hero work. Rather, she fixed her gaze on the date in the upper right corner. Before going back to the date, she gave herself a few pinches and rubbed her eyes. "DDD Deku." The boy came over to her. "What's wrong?" She gestured toward the date. The date is wrong. THTH this is wrong." Deku needed to examine his vision. Regretfully, it was excellent. Yes, the date was incorrect. The year on the newspaper was 2018. He would not have been born for another 200 years back home. Somewhere. Pacing the room was the masked man in charge of the Akuma. All of the butterflies that he had kept in his lair had calmed down and were lying on the ground. The man paced, being careful not to wake them. The elevator behind him rose from the floor as he paced, revealing his loyal assistant, Natalie. Her typical red-dyed bangs were still noticeable. She said, "You wanted to see me?" The man faced her. Dark wings, fall. Another uniform replaced the man's and it started to fade. His cream suit jacket, red shirt, and red striped tie took the place of his purple jacket and cane. The mask came off, exposing blonde hair and a stern, powerful face. "Natalie, I want you to look over the grimoire in my safe and any news outlet for any information regarding these two new heroes. One is a young man with green hair and immense strength. Another is a young woman who can remove the gravity of whatever she touches," he instructed. Natalie looked questioningly. "I'm sorry, sir. Are there more Miraculouses out there?" she inquired. The man scowled at Noru, his Kwami. "I don't know, but if there is, I want them. Akumatizing them may be difficult, however if they are miraculous heroes, they would make wonderful villains," he said. In Paris later that afternoon. After a long and exhausting day, the students at Collège François Dupont were heading home as the last bell of the day rang. Many people loved Fridays, but the amount of work was increasing every day. Naturally, nothing makes a day better than an Akuma attack over your school. Aaliyah, Ladybug's civilian friend, was thrilled by that. Real name. Marinette Dupin Cheng was feigning indifference to the scant footage of the Akuma attack that her best friend possessed. Had the heroes not intervened to stop her, the Akuma would have threatened the entire school with no real warning. But that wasn't the main thing Marinette was worried about. Aaliyah had captured a few images of the green-haired child avoiding the Mento soda cannon that was used against them, even though they weren't in the footage of the ship flying overhead. She watched intently from this point on in order to comprehend. It worked even though that wasn't the original plan, she pondered. "Girl, stop hogging my phone," Aaliyah yelled. As her friend's phone flew through the air, Marinette let out a cry. Rena Rouge, her best friend and momentary hero, Aaliyah, deftly grabbed it from the air. "Girl, I swear you're gonna break my phone just by holding it," she joked. Marinette gave a timid smile. "Sorry, that new hero is interesting though," she replied. Aaliyah smiled. "I know, right? Though, I wonder why Ladybug and Cat Noir didn't just call Rena Rouge or any of the other heroes that have been here for ages, she said. Her friend with the pigtail shrugged. I don't know, but this guy got the job done, she replied. After Aaliyah gave her consent, they started to leave the school. If I can catch up with Ladybug, I can probably get the first interview with those two. I got her and Cat Noir for interviews before anyone else. I can be 4 for 4, she said with excitement. As they went down the stairs, Marinette grinned. Adrian, her longtime crush, was on the sidewalk, walking toward his limousine. Then he paused, turned to face the school, and met Marinette's gaze. The two appeared to become closer friends ever since Heroes' Day. To Marinette's dismay, they never talked about her unexpected show of affection, but they kept going in the same direction. He waved silently and grinned at her before getting into the car. As his limo drove away, Marinette merely blushed and gave him a meek wave. Marinette let out a sigh. The words, "Aaliyah, I have it bad," were all she said. Aaliyah feigned surprise as she dropped her jaw. Really, girl? It's not like I've been telling you that since day one, she replied. Look, I'm proud of you for trying, but you have got to grab that boy for a date soon. You can't keep expecting everything to fall into your lap like Ladybug's lucky charm. Marinette gave a nod. Maybe you're right, but how'd I do it? Her friend suggested, get locked in a zoo exhibit for several hours? Marinette and her friend shared a laugh. Even though she hadn't planned on telling that story in the first place, she loved hearing it. Marinette's phone started ringing in her pocket as they were still conversing. Marinette's blood froze at the caller ID. From unknown, she picked up the phone right away. Hello? The Grandmaster Guardian's voice whispered, come to the parlor, quickly. Once you hang up, I'm contacting Cat Noir. Have a fresh transformation ready. We need to talk. With a nervous swallow, Marinette hung up. The day itself was strange, but she never would have thought she was in trouble before. The two new heroes. Wait, I must have told Master Fu about them, but I didn't tell him straight away. That was my grandmother. Yeah, she's back in town. She wants me to meet her at the the place with the thing. She struggled to speak. Aaliyah remained motionless. Anyway, talk to you later, Aaliyah. Bye, she said as she headed for the Seine. She walked in the other direction while her friend shook her head. In the interim, apprehended by Pro Hero Gunhead just hours ago. Again, it is unclear where the two heroes, Deku and Uravity, have gone to. UA representatives have not yet released a statement regarding their students. We will be taking a short break and be right back to. Mr. Aizawa, the Class 1A homeroom teacher, turned off the radio in the common area. Okay, someone tell me again how you found out they were missing, he said. Class 1A burst into conflicting explanations that overlapped with one another. The homeroom teacher, Night Hero, moaned as he heard his students' ridiculous tales until he eventually lost patience. The only reason he used his quirk was to frighten his students. And he did frighten them. His piercing red eyes pierced everyone in the class, and they all fell silent. Mr. Aizawa turned off his quirk as soon as he realized they would remain silent. You all should focus on the question I ask. Ida, tell me what you know, he stated bluntly. From his seat, the class representative leapt to his feet. Sir, Midoriya and Uraraka both checked in last night before heading to bed. Both of them remained in their rooms until this morning when their rooms appeared empty. Kirishima knocked on Midoriya's bathroom after you arrived and had no response. Mr. Aizawa's nose was pinched. Ms. Hagakure, have you checked Uraraka's room thoroughly for anything that could answer any questions? The floating UA Hagakure, wearing the Invisible Girl's uniform, displayed a tense body posture. I looked all over her room and even checked the school. If she did go out there to fight a villain, she didn't make a noise leaving the dorm, she explained. Todoroki, the son of Endeavor, the new #1 hero, let out a sigh. Sneaking out to fight a villain so close to the school sounds like something Midoriya would do. Is it possible Uraraka just followed him? He thought. Mr. Aizawa thought about that for a while. Perhaps, but that doesn't answer the question. I don't want another League of Villains kidnapping to occur here, he responded. The dorm's front door opened at that very moment. Uraraka's parents and Midoriya's mother followed All Might, the former top hero, as he entered the common area. Mr. Aizawa, I came as quick as I could, he exclaimed. As soon as I heard from Nezu, I rushed out to find their parents. Aizawa questioned, All Might? Why did you bring them here? The former pro hero stated, because they need to be here instead of panicking at home alone. I hope you have something. No, Other than it's possible Mr. Midoriya may have snuck out to battle a villain all by himself, Mr. Aizawa replied. All Might thought to himself, sounds like young Midoriya to me. Well, the villain has yet to identify himself, so until we learn more about him, all we can do is keep guess. A crack of thunder rocked the school, and the sky above them flashed green. Fearing another attack by the League of Villains, the adults and students turned. All of Class 1A fled to the windows facing the school before Mr. Aizawa could stop them. What they saw made everyone gasp. A burst of green and blue lightning shot across the sky high above the main campus. Panic spread throughout the dorms as the ensuing thunder shook the school's foundations. But the thing that loomed over the building was what made the deal final. There was a huge crack where the lightning came from. Mr. Aizawa used his capture weapon, his raps, to ensnare his students as the sky grew dark around the crack. Away from the windows, now. All Might developed a worried expression as lightning roared through the heavens, saying to himself, great, now we got a problem. Along the Seine River that evening, while waiting on a building with a view of the massage parlor, Ladybug tapped her foot impatiently. Hours ago, Master Fu had promised to get in touch with Cat Noir. Her thoughts have been consumed by the two heroes she encountered ever since that morning. They were as strange as the fissure that had formed over her city. They were not heroes in their world because they had no trouble concealing who they were. She pondered, I don't recall Aaliyah ever mentioning a pair of green bunnies and anti-gravity girls, but it might be from a comic book. She was startled out of her reverie by the sound of her partner landing beside her. Cat Noir said, sorry, I'm late, Bugaboo. Ready to get started? Ladybug grinned. About time, kitty. And here I was about to schedule an appointment, she replied. I'll have you know that I give a mean back rub, he shot back. After grinning and rolling her eyes, Ladybug and her partner leapt off the building. They arrived at her hidden entrance at the back of the building and went inside. The store was closed at this time of day. Master Fu was alone inside as the receptionist had already left for the day. Ladybug had to restrain herself from changing as she usually did once they were inside. Both of them gasped as they opened the door to Master Fu's room. The two heroes they had met earlier that day were sitting in a corner looking through some books. With headphones in her ears, Uraraka moved her head in time with the beat of whatever music she was enjoying. When the door behind them closed and Master Fu, the elder and sole surviving guardian of the Miraculous, emerged, the two Miraculous heroes leapt. Ladybug realized right away what she had neglected to do that morning. Sue. I had to find out from the Ladyblog that there are two new heroes in Paris, said the man. Instead of the two heroes I specifically chose to safeguard Paris and the most powerful Miraculouses. The two heroes' redness surpassed that of Ladybug's suit. Master Fu, I'm sorry. I completely forgot to contact you this morning, she mumbled. I should have done the same as well, but I was late, Cat Noir stammered. Late for my civilian duties. With a sly smile, the old master ushered the two into the room. Leading the way was his kwami, Waze, a kwami of protection with a turtle motif. He suggested, Master, you're frightening them. I know Waze, but I need to have some fun here, the older guardian remarked. The cat's ears dropped. He said, Sue, we're not in trouble? Fu chuckled. No, of course not. While I should have been informed of their arrival immediately after they appeared, I am thankful I found them when I did. If they managed to ask the civilian identity of Hawkmoth where they were or revealed their powers, then we would have been, he said. I brought them here after they went asking around for any hero agencies. Curious work, the power of the rift. Uraraka then glanced up and saw the heroes. She exclaimed, Hey, Ladybug and Cat Noir. Before she went to them, she gave Midoriya a quick tap on the shoulder. How are you two? Ladybug grinned. We're all right, but we still have a lot of questions, she stated. And I hope to answer some of them, Master Fu stated, please. All of the teenagers shifted to the mat in the middle of the space. Waze grinned as he flew out in front of Uraraka. I can already tell you have a good heart, said the man. When the kwami materialized, Uraraka let out a startled squeal. Hoo-ah, huh. Waze laughed. He introduced himself, saying, I'm Waze. I'm a kwami. I'm so sorry, I couldn't help it. The others sat in a circle on the mat while Uraraka delicately touched Waze. Master Fu picked up a notebook and a small pile of newspapers from the nearby counter. When I ran into them, they kept asking for a sort of hero agency. When they explained to me what that meant, I had no choice but to bring them here, Fu said. He looked at the two of them. Here, this is as close to an agency as you can get. Heroism is not a paying job, unfortunately, he stated. And after informing me about your home country, you gave me the information I needed to help. With Waze perched atop her head, Deku and Uraraka exchanged glances. I was just finishing our conversation before you arrived, Ladybug. Unfortunately, our situation will be quite difficult to overcome in a short amount of time. He pulled out the newspapers. The majority of them seemed to be antiquated copies from the previous century. I traveled through much of Japan before settling here in Paris, and reports about a luminescent baby being born would have been public very quickly. Unfortunately, none of what you claim as history has occurred here, which points to multiverse, Ladybug surmised. The spotted heroine caught everyone's attention. She shrugged and blushed. I have a friend who is a fan of comic books, she said. Master Fu grinned. Yes, you are correct. Izuku Midoriya, Ochako Uraraka, I'm sorry to say this, but you did not travel back in time. Instead, you are in another universe, he replied. Midoriya's face went white and his eyes grew wide. He lost consciousness and fell backward, saying, We are in, oh no. Deku, yelled Uraraka. She began shaking her friend and shouting his hero's name non-stop. Ladybug turned to her mentor after glancing briefly at the two. Another universe. It seems pretty far-fetched, isn't it? Master Fu gave a shrug. Do you think so? In the past, you had time turning Akumas, superheroes out of comic books requesting your aid, and an Akuma who claimed to be the same pharaoh that fell to the Egyptian ladybug thousands of years ago, he said. Cat Noir added, he's got a point there, Bugaboo, to that. But seriously though, how is that possible? Unless that rift is more than just for show. Fu gave a nod of agreement. Until we have more information about traveling between universes, it is safe to say that they are going to be staying here for a while. Uraraka looked away from her companion. Are you sure? You don't have a way to send us back? She inquired. We have our families back home who must be worried about us. Our friends. Oh God, I forgot about our class. Unless the Order of the Guardians had some way to travel between universes, I don't know any way to get you two back home. But we must not despair, for you two came here somehow. Reversing the process is possible, Fu concluded. He's right, Ladybird continued. Until there is a way to reverse what brought you here, it's probably for the best that you two rest. We can get you back home, but until then, why not enjoy what our Paris has to offer, said Cat Noir. There's more than just flying galleons in the sky. Fu grinned. Ms. Uraraka, as soon as your friend awakens, we need to discuss living arrangements. While I'm sure the both of you would want to be close enough to each other for safety, having you under the care of my pupils would make the transition and settling smoother. Wait, what? Inquired Ladybug. Waze was left with Deku and Uraraka after Ladybug and Cat Noir were escorted out of the room. With his tablet in his hands, Master Fu turned to face them both. Ladybug, I'm sorry for volunteering you two into this, however I cannot simply keep them here, he replied. And we all don't want them to be fending for themselves out there. Ladybug grinned. It's okay, though that raises an issue. Fu gave a nod. A reveal. Cat Noir's ears dropped a little. Yo, you mean they'll know who we are and we can't? Asked the man. Master Fu gave a shrug. They are comfortable with each other's identity, and once some ground rules are put into place, it should be safe. The true nature of Kwami power must not be shared, however, and your Miraculouses must not fall into their hands, warned him. Ladybug questioned, you don't trust them? It's not that. The last time someone was trusted a Miraculous without knowing who they were partially led to the collapse of the temple. While I am sure they have good intentions and good hearts, I cannot rest easy knowing they have access to your Miraculouses. The two Miraculous looked at each other. Ladybug remarked, it's probably for the best, really, who knows how they would be able to manage a Miraculous with their existing power. Cat gave a nod. So what do? We just take them into our home until it's all figured out. Master Fu, you know my living arrangement, he said. Ladybug gave him a questioning glance. Cat turned and was surprised by what he had said. I have a bed, Bugaboo. Don't worry. Ladybug let out a sigh. And I think I have a guest bedroom, but explaining it will be difficult. Fu grinned. You both are very clever, especially in tough situations. I am sure you can come up with a cover story. Both heroes gave a nod. Now, some ground rules. I am fairly aware of your schedules, and I have found they overlap. To prevent an accidental reveal, you must not associate with them too much in your civilian lives. Constant and direct association may lead you to each other outside the mask, and unless you both feel it's the right time, I'd advise against it, Fu said. Also, their powers must probably work without their suits, from what I've gathered. They must be well aware of their surroundings before using their abilities, otherwise they will be traced back to you too. Got it, said Ladybug. Cat concurred. Do we watch them the whole day, or what? Fu gave a headshake. They are teenagers, just like you, albeit they have more control of their situation. As I said, they must be careful with their abilities. Until they return home, I'd advise against retrieving any other Miraculous for your friends. You have more than enough power and help on your side. Both heroes gave a nod. It's going to be weird sharing my identity with another person, especially since I don't know them, said Cat. Same here, but it's for the best. It's only temporary and I'm sure they know the value of discretion, Ladybug replied. Master Fu grinned at his students. So we are in agreement. Both heroes gave a nod. When the three of them returned to the room together, they discovered Deku and Uraraka conversing with Waze. That's how I was formed. It's a similar story for other Kwami too, when you think about it. So all Kwami have special abilities. And Miraculouses are gemstones, replied Midoriya. Created by an ancient mage thousands of years ago so we can help the humans make the world a better place. We try to focus more on positive feelings for our creation, but there are some exceptions. When Fu arrived, he said, which can be discussed at a later date. Waze bowed briefly before soaring in the direction of the Miraculous pair. Master, do we have a plan? Fu gave a nod. I will be delving into what documents remain from the Great Temple. They had an entire index on magical barriers and creatures throughout the years. I'm sure I can find something that can help us here, he said. Which could take a while, Ladybird replied. Midoriya became worried. Our friends will be worrying about us. The sooner we can get home, the better, he stated. In the meantime, consider this a chance to study us, said Cat Noir. For a moment, the two heroes gazed at him in bewilderment. Uraraka asked if it was like an internship. Fu grinned at the analogy. Yes, much like an internship. Much like in my youth while training with the Order of the Guardians. While they are not guardians, Ladybug and Cat Noir are the two I trust absolutely. He laughed at the teenagers. In any event, I'll leave it to Ladybug for now. The heroine with the spots grinned. Cat Noir and I have agreed to take you guys in for the time being. That means you guys will be joining us for patrols. Catching Akumas, added Cat Noir. And experiencing our civilian selves. Not even we know each other outside the masks, and until we deal with Moth, it will stay that way. Unless one of us becomes very persuasive, Cat Noir said with a sly smile. Ladybug slapped Uraraka's arm as he tried not to laugh. Anyway, yeah, that's the plan. Uraraka, you'll be bunking with me while Deku goes with Cat Noir to his place, Ladybug replied. Uraraka and Midoriya exchanged glances. Reaching into his pocket, Midoriya took out his phone. We'll be in contact, he declared. Uraraka pressed on a tiny compartment after reaching into her belt. Showing the Miraculous pair her flip phone, she took it out. I think I'm set. We will need a place to store our outfits though. Ladybug approached and began picking at her attire. Her expression changed to one of focused contemplation as she kept examining her attire. She questioned, you don't have anything to change into? Uraraka gave a headshake. I kinda can't wear this and something underneath. I didn't submit everything I wanted for this so I got stuck with a skin-tight bodysuit. Cat Noir turned away, flushed. I didn't notice that before, he secretly said. Ladybug laughed. The kitty is, in fact, a gentleman. How wonderful, she replied. Her partner remained silent. I can accommodate for you, Uraraka. Deku, you seem more comfortable with your outfit, she replied. The green hero gave a nod. All right, let's move on. I have chemistry homework to complete and it's getting late. The two new heroes were led by Ladybug and Cat Noir through the attic to the roof, and once they were both on top of the building, Deku and Uraraka were amazed by the city that surrounded them. The Notre Dame Cathedral was not far away, and further down the Seine, high above the horizon of brightly lit buildings, was the Eiffel Tower in all its glory. Uraraka's eyes glistened with delight. Her classmate Yuga Aoyama had said that the city literally sparkled at night. He was not mistaken. Okay, Uraraka, you're going to be following me while Deku follows Cat Noir, Ladybug said, grinning beside her as she continued to scan the horizon. The nightlife must be an exciting thought for them, but she was still busy. In order to prevent you guys from feeling confined to our homes, we will be attempting to arrange our daily schedules, she stated. We have each other's numbers, though I don't know if they work here, Deku stated. I guess we'll find out, Uraraka remarked. The two UA friends gave each other a fist bump and bid each other good night. Uraraka approached Ladybug as the boys leapt out of the parlor, and the two heroines leapt off along the Seine once they were out of sight and the green glow from Deku's quirk vanished. Ladybug turned to see Uraraka slightly behind her as they ran above the rooftops, and each time they leapt, Uraraka used her quirk on herself to give herself a boost, but it seemed like she faltered a little more after each landing. Her intense training to control the effects of her quirk helped her immensely, but it didn't mean that her nausea went away entirely. Uraraka stopped after another leap to catch her breath and hold her stomach. Her eyes wandered across the river to find the Notre Dame Cathedral, and the beauty of the building and the sound of the bells ringing the hour made her eyes sparkle once more. Leaping back to greet the gravity hero, Ladybug said, "Hey, you okay?" "My quirk has a side effect, really," Uraraka said, nodding. "I feel queasy if I use it excessively. All I have to do is catch my breath." As she waited for Uraraka, Ladybug sighed and looked around, realizing that she was getting close to home. "We're almost there," she said. "Why don't I drive you the remaining distance? Would that be beneficial?" Ladybug grabbed the gravity hero and threw her yo-yo at a nearby building before the two set sail into the night, Uraraka nodding and fighting the urge to throw up. Some people on the street looked up and pointed in amazement at Ladybug carrying her across the sky as they flew over the streets, Uraraka holding on tight with the wind hitting her in the face. While carrying her, Uraraka observed how strong Ladybug was. Deku's constant training ensured that he had no trouble using his quirk, and she had to admit that it was strange and amazing when he offered to carry her on his back and catch up to Captain Cola. After latching onto the final structure in her path, Ladybug landed on the railing of a rooftop balcony with a sun chair, a wooden table beside it, and a canopy. She then opened the hatch door leading inside and motioned for Uraraka to follow her. Uraraka looked around the room as soon as she entered, and her first impression was that it was very pink. The room was completely covered in pink, with billboards, mannequins, and rolls of various colored cloth scattered all over the floor. She was on the second floor, where the bed was located, with a ladder leading to the first. An office chair pushed into a desk had a pink lotus flower with a cursive M on it. The billboard and some of the walls featured professional-looking pictures of a blonde child dressed in various outfits. "I won't pass judgment," Uraraka reflected. "Spots off," Ladybug exclaimed as she jumped onto the floor where her pink lounge chair was. Ladybug's civilian form was dressed in pink pants and flats, a black jacket with a white, personalized shirt, and, once more, a custom-made purse with the same insignia resting on her hip. Pink energy flowed from her feet up as her ensemble changed. The mask vanished, revealing the face of Marinette Dupan Cheng, a teenage girl who was half Chinese and half French, grinning at Uraraka. Her Kwame, Tiki, a small, red woman with black spots on her face, floated by her head. "Hello, Uraraka. My name is Tiki." She gave her name. "I cannot stress enough how important it is that you keep this a secret," Marinette said, grinning and introducing herself. "The only other person who knows who I am is you," she remarked. "Oh wow, nice to officially meet you," Uraraka remarked as she slid down the stairs and onto the floor. "Wow, this is so big," she said, taking off her wrist clamps and helmet. "And, what's cooking?" She sniffed the air. "2 floors below us is a confectionery owned by my parents. Are you starting to get hungry?" Marinette inquired. "Go ahead and change. I'll go downstairs and come up with an explanation," Marinette said, reaching to her dresser and grabbing a pair of sweatpants and a t-shirt with a black cat paw on it. Uraraka nodded, her stomach growling at the word, confectionery. She handed Uraraka the clothes and said, "I hate lying to my parents, but they can't know that you're a super-powered teen. They are unaware that you are Ladybug. They would flip, and if either of them gets akumatized, that would put us all in danger," Marinette said, shaking her head. "I'll be downstairs," she said, opening the floor hatch leading into the house. "It's best they don't know yet." After watching the door close, Uraraka looked at the black sweatpants with a pink M insignia on the right leg. She glanced around the room to see if Tiki, Marinette's Kwame, was still there, but she wasn't, so she placed the clothes on the lounge chair and started getting dressed. Later on, "Good night to you too. By the end of the week," Marinette's mother, Sabine, stated, "and Uraraka, Tom, and I will have the spare room cleaned up and ready for you." Before shutting her hatch door, Marinette yelled, "Good night mama," yawned, and headed for her lounge. "I'm beat." "Me too," Uraraka remarked, sitting on the ground. "Your parents are fascinating individuals. Is your mother China?" Marinette replied, "I kind of assumed you would ask that. My father is French, and she is Chinese. You won't believe the place where we made our home." As Tiki flew around the room with an apple in her hands, Marinette reached for a pillow and said, "Sue, why not tell me about yourself, Uraraka?" The girls laughed. Uraraka felt so at ease wearing the sweats. It was definitely better than wearing the school uniform and that skirt of hers. "The only things I know about you after a long day are your name and a place called UA," she remarked. Uraraka grinned and stood up, saying, "Well, what's there to discuss? What would you like to know? How did you get your powers?" Tiki asked, landing on Marinette's head. She inquired. "I've always had them, but I didn't know about them until I was about 2 or 3, Uraraka grinned. As she put it, "I wonder if Deku had his quirk like that when he was a baby. A good part of our society are born with quirks, either from quirk families or quirkless, though that's all genetics and I don't ask questions in that," she said. "It must have been challenging to move around without unintentionally turning it on." Marinette felt like a target for William Tell when Tiki landed the apple on her head and flew in the direction of the gravity girl. "Uraraka," the Kwami said, "there are no Miraculouses in your world, right?" "I think you should ask Deku that." "Really?" the gravity girl said, shaking her head. "I don't know as much about heroes as he does. Actually, more than the majority of my classmates." "You talk about Deku quite a bit," Marinette said, taking off the apple from her head. "I became aware of it while eating dinner." "What?" Uraraka stumbled and said, "No, I don't. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's really nice, but I don't understand." After exchanging glances with Marinette, Tiki grinned as though to say, "Now you know what it looks like from me." "Uraraka, stop," she said, blushing as she described the circumstances. "Please don't bring up him or anything else. No, I promise you, he's a good guy. Simply put, my friends make fun of me for occasionally becoming agitated around him. I try not to become overly at ease when we aren't collaborating on our schoolwork or internships because, Marinette said, raising an eyebrow. "You don't have to say a word, do you?" "That's probably a topic for another time," Marinette inquired. "I won't ask you for details." Uraraka stopped talking and sagged, clearly exhausted, and her phone buzzed in her pocket. As she was getting dressed, she asked Deku to let her know when he arrived at Cat Noir's place, and he replied that they had taken a detour for a snack or something, so it appears that he was there now. She nodded and gave a strong yawn. "Yeah, it's getting late," said Tiki and Marinette. "I'll finish my homework while you go to bed, okay?" Uraraka nodded and stood up, pausing when she saw there was only one bed. Don't worry, I'll accept the lounge chair," she assured the gravity hero. "I've done it before when Aaliyah and I had sleepovers." "Are you certain?" "The lounge doesn't bother me either," she added. "I also don't want to kick you out of bed." "It's all right, Uraraka. Only after the guest room is finished." In order to avoid disturbing her new roommate, Marinette grabbed her own phone, plugged in the headphones, and opened her playlist. Tiki settled with the apple in hand, and the two started working on homework. Uraraka wanted to argue, but she was getting tired, so she nodded and said goodnight to the two before going upstairs. As this was going on, Uraraka pulled the covers over her head and took out her phone, which was, predictably, a text from Deku. "Deku. He recently arrived, and he can see at night." Uraraka typed, "Lol, does he have the grace of a cat too?" After giggling. "Deku. I discovered that some time ago." "Nope, lol." Uraraka. "Okay, Deku. Since I'm exhausted, is it possible for us to continue our conversation tomorrow?" Deku. "Yes, we can. Good night, Uraraka, and dream sweet dreams." After reading that message again, Uraraka was overcome with thoughts. She sighed as she recalled what Aoyama had said a long time ago. Although they had never texted goodnight before, they had never even said a sweet dreams to each other before going to their dorm rooms. He had asked, "Is it because you like him?" She wanted to say, "Shut up, it's not like that." Uraraka. "Sweet dreams to you too, Deku. Good night." She shut off her phone and dozed off, a little agitated by her new surroundings, but at least she knew there was another hero in the room. "We have each other's numbers, though I don't know if they work here," Deku stated. "I guess we'll find out," Uraraka remarked. The two slapped hands and bid each other good night. Cat Noir and Deku, who were easily identified by their quirk of bright green lightning, leapt from the building and started to head west from the parlor as Uraraka met with Ladybug. But as they jumped off more rooftops, the further they were from the Seine River, and once they were sure they were out of sight of the two, Cat Noir took a detour to the north. Deku was momentarily thrown off balance, but he was able to make up for it, and tapping into 8% was no longer a problem for the hero in training because he caught up quickly. The cat hero cried out in wonder as he passed Cat Noir. "Look at you, kid. You want to race on your first day in Paris?" he yelled at the teenager with green hair. "You do that often," Deku said, grinning at the hero while perched on a chimney. Cat Noir slept beneath the chimney. "Ladybug and I would occasionally race to specific locations in the city during our patrols. Really, the Arc de Triomphe is a good starting point for us," he remarked. "She usually wins. So tell me, Deku," he said, laughing as he properly sat on the roof, turned off his quirk, and let the darkness of the Parisian night envelop him. "Which do you like better, Midoriya or Deku?" "Most people call me Midoriya, but Uraraka and Kacchan call me Deku," he stated. Although they both use Deku, for different reasons really. With a bewildered tilt of his head, Cat Noir said, "Who is Kacchan?" "Kacchan is, well, he's kind of my rival in school," Midoriya said, blushing, forgetting that only Uraraka knew who his friends were in this universe. "Before we started UA, we were friends. And both of us are attempting to become professional heroes," he clarified. Cat Noir mumbled, "Just like Naruto and Sasuke." "What, so he's a rival then?" "Never mind," the blonde hero replied. "Do you guys fight sometimes?" Cat Noir's ears twitched as Midoriya's stomach growled, as if it were a long slumbering beast, and he couldn't help but smile before he could say anything. "Hungry dude?" he inquired. "Hey, we're near this place I used to come to a long time ago," Midoriya said, blushing and nodding while clutching his stomach. Cat Noir looked around and saw a number of eateries in the vicinity. "It's Italian, but the food is delicious. Before you go home, would you like to have something to eat?" Cat Noir led him across a few more buildings, and when he saw a small plaza between two buildings, Midoriya nodded. Cat Noir found a quiet alleyway, jumped down, and looked around for anyone who might be watching. He muttered, "Claws in," and Cat called out his transformation to drop, figuring no one could see him change. When the green hero dropped beside him, Midoriya saw that Cat Noir had changed. He was wearing orange shoes with a butterfly-like emblem on the ankle, blue pants, a black shirt with stripes of various colors, and a thin white jacket over it. Midoriya watched as Cat Noir vanished in a flash of green light. The boy turned to Midoriya and grinned, saying, "Hey man," but his eyes were the most noticeable change. Previously nearly entirely green and feline, they now looked like typical human eyes. His hair was still blonde. A small black cat floated next to Noir's head, and Midoriya was in awe. "Well, that goes up there on the list of bad ideas in public, kid." "What, I've changed like this before," the child said, turning to his Kwami. "Additionally, since Midoriya will be staying at my house, it would be best for him to see me in this state." "Well, let me reiterate. This goes up there on the list of bad ideas in public, because Ladybug knows you have the kid," the Kwami said, grimacing. "Your identity will be revealed if she witnesses you with him and without the mask." "Slow down, Plag. According to the boy, she most likely brought that Uraraka girl back to her home." "Fine, but if we get busted, I'm transforming you into an actual cat," the Kwami threatened, rolling his eyes. "Oh wow, you're very cool," Midoriya said, clearly still in awe of seeing Plag for the first time, as the boy chuckled nervously before turning back to his visitor. "What about the black cat? Aren't they connected to misfortune or something?" he inquired. "That was a child of another lifetime. Most likely, you wouldn't have known who I was. Plag is the name, Camembert or bust, and it's usually Camembert," he declared. "I'm the Kwami of destruction." The blonde observed and grinned at his Kwami's civil demeanor as they somehow shook hands. "And my name is Adrian. It's good to formally meet you." "Nice to meet you as well, Adrian," said Midoriya, who merely bowed. Adrian regained his composure and said, "Let's get something to eat then." "Wow, that's serious," he thought. Midoriya paused as he was about to follow Adrian out of the alleyway and noticed that he was still dressed as a hero. "You don't happen to have a shirt under there, do you?" Adrian asked, turning as he realized what was going on. "I really have to worry about my pants," Midoriya said, nodding. he added, and a place to store all this. Wait here, and I'll get you some pants, Adrian said, pointing to a department store nearby. Are you aware of your size? Adrian went to the store after Midoriya informed him of his pant size, and as soon as he walked in, his first thought was, Father will blow a fuse if he finds out I'm here. It took some time for Adrian to locate some decent pants, but at last Midoriya was covered. The green-haired hero emerged from the shadows of the alleyway, grinning, wearing a dark blue pair of jeans with his trademark red shoes, a dark blue graphic t-shirt with the words, All Might, written in yellow on the top, and a green backpack containing his hero outfit slung over his back. The blonde pointed to the shirt as he met Adrian. All Might. My all-time favorite and a pro hero in my world. In essence, my quirk belongs to him, he replied. The restaurant was empty, with all the tables and chairs almost stacked on one side of the room and no soft music playing on the speakers, despite the sign on the door indicating that it was open. Adrian grinned and walked his friend through the plaza, passing a number of shops and eateries before approaching a specific one. The restaurant's head chef stood behind a podium at the front of the room. Chef Winter, Adrian yelled. Ah, Adrian, it has been a while. The chef said, looking up from the podium, his eyes glimmering as they met Adrian's. You don't come around anymore, he said. I'm sorry, but my father found out I was coming here often, he grumbled. My bodyguard wouldn't let me come here most times. I'm sorry to hear that, Adrian, the chef said with an apologetic expression. After all, you are always welcome here. Any friend of Amelie is a friend of mine, he declared. Adrian grinned, but it was a melancholy grin, and Midoriya just watched the two talk. They had a past together, and based on Adrian's expression when Amelie was brought up, it appeared that the name was associated with strong feelings. I apologize once more for what transpired. By the way, how is your dad doing? Adrian said, averting his gaze. He's there sometimes. I remember when they both came here, the chef said, casting a sorrowful glance at him. She wasn't any better, and he was both ecstatic and extremely anxious. I can sympathize with his suffering, and you shouldn't condemn him for it, he said. I'm really sorry, but where are my manners? Winter said, clearing his throat and putting on a smile that Deku knew was a tactic to divert Adrian's attention. Will you present Monsieur Agreste, your friend, to me? He inquired. Adrian awoke from his reverie and said, I apologize. This is Chef Winter, Midoriya. This is Midoriya, a Japanese transfer student who has come to stay with us, said Chef Winter. The chef moved away from the podium and bowed to Midoriya, receiving the same response. I'm glad to meet you, Midoriya, he said. However, I apologize that you have arrived at this time, he said. Looking up, Midoriya understood why he had said that. It appeared as though he was wrapping up for the evening. Chef Winter, what happened here? Most nights, you're usually as busy as a bee, Adrian said. Yes, regrettably, we had a significant issue not too long ago. They stole from me, Chef Winter remarked. Both teenagers widened their eyes. What time? That was an hour or so ago. They were just hurrying out the door with multiple boxes of my supplies when I returned to the kitchen after hearing a commotion there. Chef Ramsay was going to sign my personalized knife set in addition to food, woks, and pans. He cried out. Have you made a police call? Adrian inquired. I did, but they were investigating a different case. I heard the same thing, but from the other side of town. The hardware that the Liqua family has saved up should not have been taken by a boisterous gang of robbers. He said, they should be here soon, but I haven't heard anything in a long time. Did you hear any getaway vehicle when they took off? Midoriya asked. Maybe know in general which direction they were heading. I did, Winter said, nodding. That vehicle's tires must have caused more chaos than they actually did. Although it sounded like they were going south, I would like to report it if the police do arrive. I'm going to try to call them, Adrian said, carefully observing Midoriya as the green-haired boy repositioned his backpack and looked at the blonde boy. Midoriya said, I'll be right back. Adrian watched Midoriya leave the restaurant and head for the nearby alley where he had emerged, while the chef nodded and waved for him to answer his call outside. The chef gave Adrian a perplexed look, but the blonde just shrugged and they carried on their conversation. Midoriya, his mask and mouth visor up, hiding his identity from a world that didn't know him, looked for any entrance or exit on the rooftop overlooking the alleyway where the getaway car was. It was a through alley, but one end of it led to the plaza. He considered calling Uraraka and Ladybug to assist him as he scanned the alley, but he cautioned against it because Ladybug would undoubtedly question why they had stopped at a restaurant and why a boy named Adrian was there. Even though she wasn't as physically strong as her partner, Ladybug seemed to be the brains behind the operation, and he had already concluded from their brief time together that she was a clever person. That did not imply that Cat Noir lacked intelligence. Midoriya saw tire tracks that seemed to be heading east and out of the alleyway. The tire spacing indicated that a truck or SUV had driven off, and he decided he was right, so he jumped off to follow the tire tracks. Though his sudden appearance would startle some, others quickly realized that a hero's duty was never done, even if they had never seen this one before. The green hero jumped over rooftop after rooftop, dropping to the sidewalk repeatedly just to keep the trail hot. After a while, Midoriya jumped over some above-ground train tracks, and when he realized he had run out of high places to jump, he sighed and looked around, spotting a set of tracks that abruptly turned into a warehouse close to some tracks. Midoriya finally realized he was at a train yard. The phone in Midoriya's utility belt vibrated, and when he took it out, he discovered a text from Uraraka. It said, "Deku made it to Ladybug's place. It's so big and her family owns a bakery." He replied, "That sounds great. Hope they let you try some of their pastries." Cheeky smiley face. Cat Noir and I are stopping to eat somewhere before heading to his place, grinning and ignoring his rumbling stomach. Uraraka. That sounds good too. Tell me when you arrive at his place, and I'll save you a Danish. Beneath his mask, Midoriya grinned and answered, sheathing his phone and focusing on the task at hand. He charged his quirk and leapt up the warehouse roof, and as soon as he landed on the roof, the warehouse door opened and a man, about 30 years old, dressed in black jeans and a leather jacket, emerged holding a bucket in one hand and a mop in the other. Midoriya leaned in close to listen to any conversation as the man, who sounded like he was complaining to himself, slammed the bucket onto the ground and crept toward an open hatch that revealed a small gang of 15 men moving crates of stolen goods, while other men were patrolling the gangways with rifles drawn. A fraud. These are not knives from the Gordon Ramsay brand. All they have is a plaque that reads, "Gordon Ramsay signature here." What on earth were you people thinking? A man was yelling. They looked fantastic. One of the men replied, "They're worth something," because the guy was practically pleading with us not to take them. "You're an idiot. We don't care about sentimental value." Despite the circumstances, Midoriya grinned and turned back to the spot where the lone thief was mopping the ground where the tire tracks were. The green hero devised a plan and mentally reenacted the scene. Fortunately, Aizawa-sensei, an expert in the field, was gracious enough to offer some technique tips. Midoriya slipped down silently behind the mopping thief and took out 2 rolls of about 6 yards of Aizawa's bandages, that is, bandages made by his friend Momo back home, from his belt. Since they had previously worked so well against Aizawa-sensei, why couldn't they work against these guys? Using his quirk, Midoriya pulled the thug back as quickly as he could, and when he was close enough, he threw the thug over his shoulder and slammed him into the ground before he could make a sound. Midoriya carefully aimed at the man and launched the wrappings at him, causing them to fly out and wrap around the man's waist and left arm. Midoriya cursed at himself but persisted in performing the action. Midoriya examined the bandages, satisfied with his work. Whether Aizawa-sensei would be pleased that he had used the wrappings or annoyed that Midoriya had picked it up so fast, at least he had paid attention in class. After leaving the man unconscious on the building's side, Midoriya leapt back up to the roof, where he saw Cat Noir looking curiously into the building as he landed. He turned to the boy and grinned. "Glad you didn't start without me," he mouthed carefully. "What did you tell Winter?" Midoriya asked, grinning as she walked closer to Cat Noir. He inquired. "He was wondering what was taking you so long, so I opted to go find you," he explained. "It shouldn't have taken that long to make a quick call to the police." "So how are we doing this?" Midoriya asked, giving a thumbs up as she edged closer to the open sky window. Cat inquired. "On the railings overlooking the main warehouse are about 8 guards. They won't give us a break while taking care of the other guys, and they won't think twice about shooting us down once they see us. I'm not sure if there are more in the back, but a stealth op would be nice. Since we're both nimble and strong, a traditional raid would be ideal. Of course, there are the lights to consider. Once the fighting starts, they have the upper hand and there aren't many places to hide. We will undoubtedly be compromised by quick maneuvering," Midoriya muttered. Cat Noir just remained silent as Midoriya muttered to himself, wondering if he did this all the time and if his friends ever noticed. He appeared to be very focused on the task at hand, almost as if he was actually reviewing the entire plan. "Sorry," He whispered, "It's a habit I'm trying to break." The green-haired boy turned when he finally noticed the silence and saw Cat staring at him funny. He blushed bright red and almost sputtered out a long list of excuses before he remembered the situation. "No, don't do that," said Cat, shaking his head. "You're actually onto something. The guys on the railings won't know what hit them if we can blitz them and block their vision. It should be simpler because of the confusion." It was a wonder they hadn't been apprehended yet because Midoriya's smile was so bright. "Wait, please tell me your transformation somehow gives you night vision," he almost squealed. "I found that out by accident actually," Cat said, nodding. "Great, now we need to sever the power from whatever source of power they have and hit them quick," Midoriya said with a positive smile. "Way ahead of you," said Cat. "Watch this." Cataclysm. Midoriya was further captivated by the destructive energy emanating from his right hand. "What does that do? Does it have a bad luck power that makes everything you touch go crazy?" "Whatever I touch gets immediately destroyed, but he said, shaking his head. He saw Midoriya's face change as he spoke, and he noticed that Midoriya's hand instinctively went to his right elbow, where he recoiled upon impact, a destruction quirk that mirrored. "I'll locate the junction box and blow it," Cat said, retreating. "I'll join you if you wait 3 seconds before jumping in. We need to move quickly because I only have 5 minutes left before I transform back," he stated. Before Cat Noir jumped off the roof, Midoriya nodded. In the meantime, he started to gather himself. It was just an overreaction, and he was different from Shigaraki in terms of, well, everything. After clearing his head, Midoriya crept over to the opening and waited patiently for Cat Noir to cut the power, and sure enough, the power abruptly stopped. 5 minutes later, Midoriya jumped in, his quirk fully charged. The first gunman he was going to target turned around and gave him a sidelong glance as he touched down. "What the? How could I have forgotten that Full Cowl was emitting green light?" Midoriya launched the first thug across the gangway in an instantaneous attack. "What the? Cat Noir," one man yelled. "I was a rabbit once, and now I'm a cat." Uraraka would be thrilled. A metal door swung open below as Midoriya dispatched the thugs above, and 2 men grunted as the sound of a metal pole struck them. "Hey guys, is it already Black Friday?" After dealing with the guys up top, Midoriya leapt to the ground and kicked one thief into another, sending them both into an SUV parked somewhere in the dark. As one of the thieves landed, his gun went off, sending a shot somewhere in the warehouse, and Midoriya realized that there were more guns here. Cat Noir couldn't help but smile as he pushed through the people inside, passing through several thieves with lightning speed. "Too bad you guys can't see in the dark," he said, launching both armed box sorters and thieves into other crates and vehicles. "This seems fairly unfair, in my opinion," Cat Noir yelled. "That cat needs to be neutered," a rough voice yelled. The man who yelled that out knew 1,000 eyes were on him because Cat Noir was the only one who could see in the dark. Somehow, everyone just stopped fighting as that rang out, and everyone turned to face the source of the voice. What? Not cool dude," said Cat Noir. "A simple declaw that cat would have worked fine, but no, you had to go there." The thief was left all alone as everyone turned back to one another and started fighting again. More gunshots were fired into the air as the fight went on, and if someone wasn't worried about gunshots before, they were now. Cat Noir had a minute or two before his detransformation began, as evidenced by a series of rapid beeps that pierced the darkness. Deku. When the green-haired hero heard his name, he ducked beneath one thief and threw him into another, forcing them to flee quickly. After incapacitating another thief, Midoriya turned to what he hoped was a brick wall, and he prepared himself by weighing the wall's strength and the power he could use. "DL Liwar Re, what are you do?" Cat Noir asked, turning to face Deku. OMG, it was another night of being a hero. With a flick of his fingers, a strong current of air blasted at the wall in front of them, creating an escape route. Cat Noir made their escape without arguing at all, leaving many sore and unconscious thieves behind. As they did so, the sounds of police sirens could be heard in the distance getting closer. When they got back to the restaurant, Chef Winter told them that while they were away, Cat Noir had given the police a tip that all of the culinary supplies that had been stolen over the previous few weeks had been found in a train yard outside of the city. Although it would take some time for the police to gather all the evidence and sort them before returning them to their owners, Chef Winter was thrilled to hear the news. The 2 secret heroes were thrilled to have food, so they headed to the Agrest homestead. Originally, they were going to eat at his restaurant, but Chef Winter decided that it was already too late and that he didn't want Adrian and his friend to get into trouble, so he quickly prepared a to-go pack and sent them on their way, promising to make it up to them later. Actually, it's a mansion. Adrian went downstairs to check in with his father as the two entered the room, leaving Midoriya alone with his Kwame, Plag, who continued to stare at him amusingly as he unpacked the food. "You're weird," Plag said simply. "What?" Midoriya answered. "Kid, you're strange. I mean, I've witnessed a lot over the years as the literal god of destruction. There have been other gods, magic, monsters, and even a time traveler or two, but never a child like you," he said, adding, "And why the sleeve? Now that you're inside, unwind a bit." After getting out of his hero costume, Midoriya changed into his All Might shirt and shorts for his sleepwear. The shirt barely covered the sleeve he wore around his elbow, so Midoriya touched it absently and said, "It's a habit of sorts. I must check it shortly." "Well, what the devil did you do to your arm? Kid, you're going to be a weird case in the future," Plag remarked. "I swear, it looks like you put your arm in the meat grinder and stitched it all back up. How does Adrian handle your bluntness?" Midoriya grimaced. He inquired. Shrugging, Plag said, "The kid needs it from time to time." "Sorry about that, it seems my father actually noticed I wasn't here tonight and he nearly freaked," Adrian said with a weary sigh as he walked over to the couch where Midoriya was arranging the food. "Is he unaware that I'm here?" he inquired. "He would definitely freak," Adrian said, shaking his head. "When my school friends visit, he doesn't like it. To go to the park for a picnic, I would need to have a set schedule and my bodyguard, and even then, I would have to come back early," he remarked. "Oh wow, talk about a harsh father," Midoriya sagged. Adrian waved it away, saying, "I don't blame him too much given the situation. But being at school, being Cat Noir, well, I enjoy the company of them both," he remarked. "He has always tried to keep me close since my mom disappeared." As he listened, Midoriya, who was eating sliced chicken and steak and a small bowl of white rice, said, "I can relate. New experiences help us grow, but my mom didn't want me to enroll in the UA dorm system," he remarked. Adrian remarked, "I've been meaning to inquire about that. You brought up UA previously, but never in detail. It sounds like a school." "That's correct," Midoriya said with a smile. "Without a doubt, the best hero school and course in Japan." He clarified, "I wanted to attend that school even before I got my quirk. They've produced a lot of pro heroes over the years, including All Might. They have amazing people, there are a lot of different quirks, and people think differently. Kirishima, one of my pals." While they were eating, Midoriya continued to talk about the school, including the villain attacks they had to endure, and Adrian joined in, asking questions and commenting on the different heroes he had encountered. Adrian had to smile as Midoriya described his friendships at the school, and everyone there did sound like really good people, especially for heroes in training. That did include the villains. Adrian and Plag were able to understand Midoriya's earlier reaction as he discussed the Battle of Kamino Ward and All for One, mentioning how he could bestow stolen quirks on others, and discussed the villain Shigaraki and his power. Adrian instantly muttered, "Hawkmoth. Hawkmoth sends out Akumas to transform people into villains with various abilities. Once we have subdued them, we can remove them." Adrian went to the bathroom to change after Midoriya nodded and yawned wildly before he could say anything else. "Take my bed. I can sleep on the couch," he said, adding, "and don't argue. I won't accept no, and guests have bed privileges." With a sly smile, Midoriya got up and lay down on the bed, taking out his phone and sending Uraraka a quick text, hardly realizing that she was probably wondering if he was home yet. "Midoriya. He just arrived and has night vision," which he knew he would need to explain later. She took a while to respond, and for a brief moment he believed that she was already asleep and that he had unintentionally woken her up. When she did, his panic subsided. "Uraraka. Is he also as graceful as a cat?" Midoriya shook his head. "No, he didn't. I discovered that some time ago." Uraraka. "Okay, Deku. Since I'm exhausted, is it possible for us to continue our conversation tomorrow?" "We can. Have a good night Uraraka and sweet dreams." Deku sighed. She was as exhausted as he was. They had both only slept a few hours earlier that day. His heart was racing now. He wanted to call and wish each other a good night, like they used to do back in the dorm. Well, they didn't call, but they did say good night to each other occasionally. After a minute had gone by since he sent that text, he started to feel a little anxious because he wasn't used to adding "sweet dreams" and because telling a girl that would sound romantic, which he wasn't used to. At last, she answered, "Good night, Deku. Sweet dreams to you too." He turned off his phone and placed it on the nightstand beside him. He was so exhausted that Midoriya dozed off before Adrian had finished changing in the restroom. Today, however, Uraraka woke up wondering why the ceiling of her dorm was so close to her bed, and why there was so much extra room on her bed at the moment. The smell of freshly baked goods lulled Uraraka from her sleep, and warm bread and melting butter was by far the sweetest thing to wake up to, no matter where you were. Uraraka looked around the room. She didn't mind the extra room on her bed or the smell of freshly baked goods downstairs, but as she looked around, she saw that her host wasn't there. Slowly getting to her feet, the gravity girl looked around the room and threw up the blanket to discover a small note at her feet, folded neatly and bearing Marinette's unique insignia. Uraraka, I apologize for not saying good morning. I had to leave after waking up late for school once more. Mom has prepared breakfast for you downstairs. Have a great day. Marinette, I hope we can talk more about it later. P.S. I left some clothes on a mannequin for you. Based on how the pajamas fit you, it appears that you're not far from my friend Aaliyah. Uraraka pocketed the note and grinned, thinking, wow, what a giving spirit. She stretched a little before jumping off the bed, using her quirk on herself at the same time. With no gravity to hold her down, Uraraka grinned broadly as she landed in the air. She took note of the room's layout, noting that it was simply too large to have been an attic in the first place, that it felt cool and ventilated even though the sun was shining directly through the window, and that Marinette had plenty of space to work on her homework or ladybug training because there wasn't much furniture. Of course, the mannequins and rolls of fabric scattered around showed how passionate she was about design. She has a crush on the guy, I bet, she whispered to herself as she floated back to the bed, cancelled her quirk, and jumped off the bed to try it out. She noticed the billboard with the pictures of the blonde boy on it as she floated around the room. Uraraka chose a picture of Marinette and the blonde boy, as well as two other teenagers. A pen drawing of a fox tail was placed over a red-headed girl wearing spectacles, and a turtle shell was placed over a boy wearing a blue shirt and a baseball cap. The photos spoke for themselves. The lighting, the poses, the settings, and everything else looked very professional. Uraraka grinned as she re-pinned the picture. Suddenly, there was a knock on the hatch door, and Marinette's mother, Sabine, appeared. Hey Uraraka, sorry for barging in, she said, I was just wondering if you were awake. I was about to come on down, Uraraka said, nodding. I apologize, and I hope that forcing you to work on the guest bedroom isn't bothering you in any way. Don't worry about it, Sabine said, waving it away. In any case, Tom's mother was forced to postpone her trip out here. I'm wondering if you can help me out with something once you get ready and eat, she said. I have a friend in town too if you need an extra hand, Uraraka said, nodding. She wasn't sure if Midoriya would mind doing some non-hero work today, but it would be something to keep them both occupied. Sure thing, said Sabine with a smile. You two can switch places for the day once Marinette gets out of school. When your friend is ready to visit, let me know. She shut the hatch, leaving the gravity girl alone in the room. Uraraka jumped up on the bed to check her phone for notifications, but there were neither new messages nor calls. Deku is in trouble. A villain is at the front gate. Wake Aizawa-sensei right away. She scrolled through her contacts and saw Mina's number listed along with a number of old texts the two had exchanged, including one that she sent Mina but never read. She kept scrolling, thinking, I want to think of something for Deku's birthday. Party in the dorm. That was earlier that afternoon while they were at lunch. Mina. That sounds fantastic. I'm capable of making a mean bowl of cereal. Uraraka rolled her eyes and laughed, recalling that she had to tell Deku that it was just a dumb cat meme she had sent her. She left the conversation and went to Deku's contact, still unsure that responding with sweet dreams was a good idea, especially since she was still denying that she had any romantic feelings for her classmate. It sounded like something a couple would say to each other, and they weren't a couple. They were two heroes in training, stuck on a different Earth where quirks didn't exist. Not having a crush on anyone else at her school, she was stranded. Shaking her head, she said, What are you thinking, Uraraka? Deku and I need to concentrate on finding a way back home. These people are nice, but we are interfering, and interfering with someone's quiet life is not what makes a hero. Relationships come later. She dismissed her thoughts for the moment and texted Deku, Are you awake? As if she really believed that. I was going to ask you the same question, haha. Talk about timing. He responded right away. Yes, you had a good night's sleep, Uraraka said with a smile. Deku. I did, until Kwame from Cat Noir sat on my face and woke me up. I think Uraraka sounds like a real cat because she couldn't contain her laughter. Deku. Oh my goodness. What are your plans for today? I was going to ask you the same thing, Uraraka. I believe Ladybug's mother needs our assistance with the shop, so I was wondering if we could get a second pair of hands. Deku. Of course, I'll go over as soon as I'm prepared. After sending him the address, she put her phone away and looked at the clothes Marinette had left her, including a pair of blue pants and shoes that went with the outfit, a black button-up shirt with pink shoulders, and pink cuffs with green cuff links on each one. Uraraka didn't notice the green or its meaning. She started to change after grabbing a tank top from her hero costume. After putting his phone away, Midoriya paused his crunches on the second story of Adrian's room, explaining that earlier that morning, Adrian had gone out with the gorilla who, much to Midoriya's dismay, lacked superhuman strength to run errands while his father wandered the mansion. Thus, he had to leave quickly and covertly. The green hero quickly regained his bearings and started heading to the confectionery after grabbing his new civilian outfit and putting his hero outfit in his backpack. He then jumped onto the window, activated his quirk, and leapt out into the city, avoiding the security cameras Adrian had previously warned him about. Now that he was out of the house, Midoriya opened his phone and looked up the address Uraraka had sent him. It felt great that morning, and after stopping a crime ring the night before, he was glad to be off duty. The fresh air burned across his skin as he passed over Paris. After some time, Midoriya discovered the candy on the intersection of two streets. The high school Adrian had mentioned he was heading to was across the street. After checking for traffic, Midoriya jumped onto the street, turned off his quirk, and jogged to the front door. The smell of 1,000 baked goods hit Midoriya the moment he walked into the confectionery. Well, more like a few loaves of bread and other baked goods, sweet fruits and buttery goods all made his stomach do a Detroit smash inside of him, and he didn't like that he hadn't eaten before coming over. Good morning, young man, he called out, how can I help you? The unusually tall man at the front counter had the best mustache the hero in training had ever seen, was wearing a bright blue shirt, and had such a warm smile that he kind of knew Ladybug got it from him. He stammered, my friend, as Midoriya held up his phone. He was taller than he appeared, as big as a giant but as cuddly as well, the man laughed and said, don't be nervous, young man. It looked as adorable as a teddy bear, a huge teddy bear you could win at a state fair, but don't tell Ladybug. Aren't you here to lend a hand? He inquired. The man grinned and said, my name is Tom, to which Midoriya nodded. Dupan, Tom, let me quickly get Sabine, he said. Tom took a baguette slice, gave it to Midoriya, and went to the back. Midoriya sighed as soon as he was gone, eating the bread in silence and looking around the lobby, which smelled and looked so good that it almost reminded him of Sato's room at UA. It occurred to Midoriya that he would enjoy himself greatly here. With a small Chinese woman behind him, who shared her husband's warm smile, Tom went back into the lobby. Hello, you must be Midoriya, she said. I'm Midoriya Izuku, nice to meet you, Midoriya said, nodding and bowing. Nice to meet you, Midoriya, Sabine said, bowing as well. I take it that Uraraka, your friend, said you could help. She inquired. That's right, he concurred. Good, Sabine grinned. She's eating breakfast upstairs. I'm sure we have something up there for you to eat if you're hungry too. When you're ready, come back down, she said. Tom grinned at his wife after Midoriya vanished, saying, doesn't he look familiar? He thanked them both and went to the back door where the stairs leading to the apartment were located. Most likely one of Marinette's friends. Another group of customers entered the store, interrupting their conversation. In the world of my hero. Sitting in her son's dorm room, Inko Midoriya glossed over the various All Might figurines and posters. It felt wrong to be in her son's room with him not there to comment. She looked at his desk and saw one of his journals partially open. She wanted to open it and read it, but it felt like an invasion of privacy. She sighed and reminded herself that she was a mother. A mother whose child has gone missing. She walked over to the book and opened it to a single page, where she gasped to see a rough sketch of the villain All Might fought in Camino Ward, along with his name, All for One, his approximate height, the quirks he employed, and a note linking him to the League of Villains. All for One is the name. Strangeness. Everything for one. Height. 6 feet 0 inches. Weight. Strength. Air cannon. Rivets, spear-like bones, impact recoil, the ability to bounce back from All Might's blow. Association with the League of Villains, former leader. History. All Might never went into great detail about his past. All for One might have remained hidden for a long time, giving rise to countless villains. His reasons for being a villain are unclear, and he sounds sadistic. Amazing that he is real. Unaware of All Might standing in the doorway, Inko continued to read her son's notes. She eventually became aware that someone else was in the room with her, and she leapt when she met the former hero's eyes. With the journal dropped, she cried, "All Might, you scared me." Toshinori raised his hands in the air. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to scare you," he stumbled out. "I saw the door open and Using her quirk, Inko picked up the journal and grinned. She returned the journal to the desk and said, "It's okay, I was just reading." The former professional athlete walked in and looked around the room with a smile. He recalled seeing some fully grown adults line up to purchase one of his Golden Age figurines when they first went on sale. It was harder to sign all of them than most of his rescues. "You're worried about young Midoriya too," replied he. Inko gave a nod. "It's not like him to just disappear like this. I just can't take this anymore really. He just has to constantly throw himself into danger just to prove a point, and I just want him to stop. He's turning into me, I know. Trust me on this when I say that I've told him to be his own hero, but sometimes he still believes he can be like me," said Toshinori. "I want what's best for him too, Mrs. Midoriya. I know, but this is out of hand. I heard about his fight with Bakugo and his in-home suspension," she continued. "You promised you would protect him." Toshinori approached her and gave her a tight hug. "I know, and I will continue to honor that promise. They're both trying to find themselves and it will take time for them to get their bearings, but I believe he can pull through. We can't give up hope." As he spoke, he took a step back to accentuate his point and briefly tensed up, which made Inko smile. For the one instant before he returned to his normal self, his signature smile reappeared. "Young Midoriya and Uraraka will return to us, I can guarantee that," she was assured. "He is a very clever young man and very composed. And with Uraraka's unwavering attitude and determination to get the job done, they can and will find their way home." In the interim, concerned about their current predicament, Midoriya said, "I don't think this is a good idea. I mean, what if they come back here and see you like this?" Uraraka had been asked to get some extra trays and sheets of aluminum foil from the top shelf of their storage closet while Tom concentrated on completing an order because they needed assistance with their cooking supplies. Uraraka used her quirk to climb while weightless because she couldn't reach it and wasn't at all sure that climbing the shelves would be safe. Uraraka laughed as they arrived at the necessary supplies. "They're too busy helping out customers to come in here, so I think we'll be fine." Midoriya observed, "Yes, but you're also quite far from the counter to get down safely." "I can stick the landing Deku. O ye of little faith," she said, snatching up the aluminum foil and trays. "Besides, I can just push myself from the ceiling and land safely once I release my quirk." "You've thought about this, haven't you?" She placed the supplies where Midoriya was without applying her quirk to them. He collected all the ingredients with ease and put them aside. "Goddamn." They could clearly hear Tom's voice outside the room. "You got them. Great." In a panic, Uraraka let go of her quirk and fell to the ground. If Midoriya hadn't used his quirk to catch her before she hit the ground, she would have fallen on her back. Just outside the door, Tom said, "You kids okay?" When Midoriya turned off his quirk, he stumbled. With the girl in his arms, he took a step backward and slipped on the tray Uraraka had obtained. A white cloud rose throughout the room as they both landed on a bag of flour. Tom opened the door at that precise moment. He glanced in and saw the two superhero teenagers with shy expressions on their faces, covered in flour. Uraraka was not facing her friend, but she was on top of Midoriya. Tom helped the two get up by throwing open the door. "Goodness, you two, you guys have to be careful." He unsuccessfully attempted to dust Midoriya with flour. "You two head upstairs and shower to get all of that stuff off of you," he suggested. After nodding, the two slipped out the door. Tom shook his head and glanced back into the closet as the two leapt up the stairs. He picked up the aluminum and the trays from the floor and left the door open so he could clean later. "Ah, kids." Master Fu was busy poring over ancient books from the now demolished Guardian's Temple in his massage parlor on the opposite side of Paris. He searched for something that could help him in his endeavor by turning through book after book, scroll after scroll, and even old notes left by his colleagues. Even though the sign outside read, "Closed," he could still hear customers who couldn't read occasionally tapping the door. Waze, his Kwame, was clearly impatient with the day's events as he continued to fly around the room. "They haven't called, Master," he said. "I know. Ladybug and Cat Noir were supposed to have checked in by now." Fu remarked, "I never told them to do that, they know when not to contact me." Waze remarked, "But these two kids are a wild card, I just hope they haven't taken the Miraculouses." Fu rolled his eyes. "Waze, we have both met them, yes. Then you know as well as I that they don't have any evil in their hearts. They won't take the Miraculouses from them, even if they had every chance to do so. Humans are wild cards, Master. Anything could happen that can change everything." Fu turned to his Kwame and put down one of the books. "Waze, in all our years together, have I ever steered you wrong? Do you trust me, even if I am a wild card human?" His Kwame said, "Of course, Master, right away. Why would you ask?" "Because as you have seen my heart and my motives, I have seen Ladybug and Cat Noir's. I know them and trust them enough to do good as you trust me to do good. When the time comes, one of us will contact the other, but we must be patient before anything else," Fu continued. Waze bowed and grinned. "You are correct, Master." Fu grinned and carried on reading. He sighed as his research came to a standstill once more. The old masters certainly kept a lot for themselves, haven't they? Their caution was justified, Master. Magical items and texts were the most sought after among everything else in the temple. To keep that knowledge from even the trainees and everyone else under the rank of Grand Master was the necessary precaution, Waze stated. It didn't stop a bold set of thieves, however. "It is a wonder the world still spins normally," Fu said. "What makes you think the world hasn't been touched by magic?" Fu gave a nod. He instantly froze, saying, "If only time travel were possible." Waze soared in the direction of his master's face. "Master, are you okay?" Fu let go of the book. "The vaults. Waze, you said when I found you that the tunnels bore through the mountain, right?" "Yes, and no one below the rank of master could enter the sub-levels, right?" "And you did anyway, I remember." He picked up a scroll from the nearby counter and said, "Waze. Is it possible that there are magical items more powerful than a Miraculous in the sub-level vault?" Without delay, the turtle Kwame covered his mouth and took off into the phonograph's miracle box. Fu walked over to the phonograph and moaned. "Waze, I am asking for your help here." From inside the phonograph, he said, "No Master, I cannot. While I am bound to serve, I cannot reveal the contents of the vault. I'm not even supposed to confirm its existence. It is forbidden for a reason. Forbidden to an order that doesn't exist anymore, Waze. You must tell me, it could have what the children need to return home," Fu begged. Waze did not emerge. "Gods above know the powers hidden away. Only a Grand Master can access the vault and I cannot help you." "Why not?" No response. Waze. "Nothing has changed. Waze, I am begging you. If there is something in there that could take them home, I need to know. They deserve a chance to go home," he begged. Waze then drifted out of the phonograph slowly. "Even if I could tell you, it is dangerous. There are Kwame down there who have no love for humans. They will not bow in place unless you are absolutely pure of heart. Not to mention the magical barriers that lie inside," he continued. Fu put his hands around Waze and raised him until they were looking at each other. "Waze, I understand the great lengths the Grand Masters of the past took to safeguard our magical artifacts, but the fact of the matter is this: these kids need our help. I will brave the vaults if I must," he declared. "You understand that, yes?" Waze appeared to be defeated. He nodded slowly, his head hung low. "I can tell you this: we have to work strongly together. That means you need to remember our old training in order to stand a chance. I can only protect you for as long as I can hold the transformation," he continued. "From there, I think we can stand a chance." With a smile, the elderly master gave Waze a head pat. "I'm sorry to drag you out of your comfort zone, but I need you." "I know, Master. We should let Ladybug know so she can tell everyone else," said the Kwame. "Though, what will you do with the miracle box?" Master Fu then grabbed his phone and said, "Ladybug will oversee its protection. One step at a time." Marinette said, "Let them all know. I hope you have a safe trip then," and hung up. On the sidewalk outside her classroom, she let out a sigh. The spotted heroine almost went into a panic when she saw that caller ID was missing before requesting to take the call outside. Naturally, She totally disregarded Lila's scowl as she left and returned inside. For several months now, Marinette had been on the lookout for Lila. She was tenacious and gave her that much, but she couldn't understand why she chose to be such a bad influence. Although it wasn't in support of Marinette, Chloe had also stood up to the resident liar. She was aware of Lila's alliances because she knew Adrien didn't enjoy her lying. Tiki emerged from Marinette's handbag. Curious about the exchange, she inquired, "He's going back to the temple?" In a quiet voice, she asked, "Yeah, he mentioned something about a vault." "What's up with that?" "It's an old Guardian legend, but now's not the right time." "If he's talking about the vault I'm thinking about, then it won't be for a while until you hear back from him," Tiki said. Marinette became anxious. "That bad, huh?" Tiki gave a nod. Marinette went back to class as she withdrew back into the purse and closed it. In order to avoid disturbing the other students, she crept back inside. Lila appeared poised to kill from the back. That day, she felt like something extra was eating away at her. She grabbed her tablet and finished the task. Everyone left to head to the cafeteria after class. Following Lila to her table, a small group of Marinette's classmates assisted her with her food and bag. Marinette, meanwhile, sat apart from the throng and silently glared at the girl who was lying. Even as Ladybug, she was wary of their relationship because she believed that one day Lila would make a mistake and everyone would see how big of a liar she was. Adrien put a hand on her shoulder as she ate. He said, "Hey, are you okay?" Marinette almost squeaked with surprise as she leapt into position. As she stammered, Adrien. You scared me." Adrien reddened. "Sorry, but you looked lost in thought. Everything okay?" The girl with the pigtails gave a nod. "Just had a long night, really. A family friend came into town so she was staying in my room last night," she explained. "Oh yeah," Marinette gave a nod. "My grandma made a friend in Italy and she's staying here while on her way to London." "She's something else," she said. At least she wasn't lying to win his love or to feel good about herself, even though she didn't want to lie like Lila did. "Oh, that's cool, really. I've wanted to go to London for some time now." "What is she going for?" She didn't say, really. All she said was she's stopping by here for a little bit." "I can ask her later," she said. Adrien grinned. "That's great, Marinette. I'd like that," he replied. Marinette gave a tense laugh. Adrien indicated a vacant chair. "May I?" Unable to think of anything to say, Marinette blurted out, "Of course not," is followed by a typical Marinette recuperation. She laughed nervously. I mean of no. Yes, sit. Her inner yelling was concealed by the broad smile. Despite her clumsy sentence, Adrien grinned and took a seat beside her. Over the past year, he had become accustomed to it and almost found it charming. But Ladybug was still the one in his heart. That did not, however, imply that he had no regard for his friend. Lila would steal glances in their direction while they ate in silence. Adrien's continued friendship with Marinette and his presence around her infuriated her. She suspected it wasn't enough to make an Akuma appear. She would wait for the moment. When one of her classmates inquired about the other nations she had traveled to, she jolted back to reality. Marinette's phone buzzed before she could speak to Adrien. When she took it off, Uraraka's text message read, "Another villain. Rue de Temple," is what Deku was saying. Adrien was just finishing his meal when Marinette turned to face him. He had to wait 5 minutes for an Akuma to arrive on the day he sat next to me for lunch. It was just my luck. Marinette abruptly stood up. I just remembered this thing. Yes, the thing I needed to do," she murmured. "I gotta do the thing for the thing," guessed Adrien. Marinette's face was a fiery red. "Why yes, I mean, yeah, C class in you, I mean C class you in, I mean." Adrien laughed. "C class you in too," he said in jest. Marinette would get redder if she could get any. She snatched up her food and drove off like a cat after a light. His phone buzzed as well after she left the cafeteria. Midoriya texted me, saying, "Found a villain. Rue de Temple is a street, I believe." Adrien rolled his eyes and grinned. This ought to be enjoyable, he reflected. Aaliyah had to conceal a tiny smile from her boyfriend, Nino, when she saw Marinette flee after getting a text. Getting their ignorant friends together has been their shared objective ever since they first started dating. Things changed when the entire matter of the Miraculous materialized in front of her. To begin with, she was aware of Ladybug's true identity. She was also aware that Kwame existed and that Carapace and Queen Bee were real. Of course, this was unfair because everyone in Paris was aware of Queen Bee. On numerous occasions, she thought to herself, stupid Chloe, giving up her secret identity just for some fame. It gets her into trouble with her family too. Next she will accidentally reveal her own identity or Carapace's, or worse, Marinette's. Long ago, she came to terms with the fact that Marinette was Ladybug. They talked a lot about Rena Rouge and how she seemed to appear out of nowhere after cleaning up Paris after the Sapides incident. She initially believed that Marinette would mistake her for Rena Rouge and discover her true identity. Rather, it was the other way around. Aaliyah instantly figured it out. A year ago, same as Volpina's powers, only it looks like she can't use it all the time, Aaliyah said. Marinette pretended to be in awe as she leaned into the discussion. What do you mean? Are you saying the villain was more powerful? She inquired. Aaliyah gave a shrug. It would be nice to fight her one day. I mean see her fight Volpina, she replied. But still, it's too bad I couldn't get any footage for the Ladyblog. Grinning, Marinette gave Aaliyah a light arm punch. One day, Aaliyah, you'll get her. Who knows, maybe she'll be more interesting as Ladybug. Aaliyah chuckled. Don't be so silly, girl. Of course that does raise a good point. Ladybug must know Rena Rouge. This hero came out of nowhere and disappeared just as quickly. She must have been in Paris and Ladybug just so happened to have contacted her. Perhaps they are superhero best friends or something. She exhaled. It's a shame that there isn't any reliable footage out there. Yet, Marinette concluded, it literally just finished, right? Whoever has something is probably still trying to process that Ladybug trusted someone with power. Aaliyah paused, mentally repeating those words. Ladybug had faith in a powerful person. I didn't say that I was chosen. Right, but how could Ladybug pick someone? Marinette's eyes were filled with panic. What? I mean I bet it looks like it, right? Well it could be possible that, well a hero suddenly arriving would confuse some people. Aaliyah gave a skeptical nod. They carried on as usual, but Aaliyah remembered that Marinette was aware that Ladybug had made contact with someone. In all honesty, the panic sold more than her actual words. Carapace wouldn't show up for several more months. She was immediately aware that Nino was the most laid-back turtle this side of the English Channel, but it still made her consider Marinette's frequent justifications for not allowing her to accompany her out to record Ladybug. Not feeling so good today. I think I sprained my ankle. Transformed into a knight. I'm a coward, you know that. The list went on, and each and every justification got worse over time. When Ladybug dropped her textbook while she was out filming for the blog, she had an old suspicion in addition to the excuses. Before, she had no reason to think that her actions were anything but normal Marinette. The abrupt alteration in Marinette's physical attributes was another. First of all, when the two of them were alone, she was more agile and had more muscle. She began to perceive her as Ladybug the more time she spent with her friends. Marinette's error was what verified her identity. One day, she was in her room at Marinette's while her best friend was getting some fresh air on the roof. Marinette said that getting some air would help her recover from the impact of an Akuma and prevent her from becoming frightened. Aaliyah therefore waited for a few minutes after she left for the roof before slinking off. Suddenly, Marinette was nowhere to be found. As a result, she waited in her room for any sign that Marinette had returned, such as footsteps. The sound of footsteps verified Marinette's return, but it took some time, and she wasn't even certain what the Akuma were or what they wanted. Despite the ribbons holding her pigtails in place, the secret heroine's hair was a complete mess when she got back to her room. A sudden breeze came by as I was already fixing my hair, she recalled. She thought to herself, yeah, and it must have taken the wind from your lungs because you sound winded. It was undeniable. Aaliyah felt deceived and Marinette was Ladybug. It wasn't that her best friend didn't tell her. Rather, it was that she was unable to report it since she now knew who she was. Because her best friend was hiding behind the mask, exposing her would ruin their friendship and make her a target for Moth. Aaliyah was startled out of her reverie by a crash. With a pink adolescent directly behind her, she witnessed Ladybug swing over the cafeteria skylight. Eager to catch even a glimpse of the new heroes, Aaliyah snatched her phone from her bag and hurried out of the cafeteria. When she arrived at the school's front door, she noticed the Akuma skating past them. Once more, it wasn't Frozer. It was a well-dressed Akuma with roller skates beneath his feet, a trumpet in his hands, and eighth notes arranged in a mask. As the heroes pursued him, He waved at them. He then blew into his trumpet, saying, "I didn't realize I had such adoring fans. Here, have an encore." This guy could play on anything, but Aaliyah was certain that Chloe could have done better on a bongo. The pursuing heroes concurred that the music was like nails on a chalkboard. The young reporter found it odd that the musical notes appeared in the real world and behaved similarly to the projectiles she had used as Lady Wi-Fi more than a year prior. In their pursuit of the villain, Ladybug and the pink heroine dove aside. Aaliyah marveled at a few things while she observed the pink heroine at work. First, she didn't have any problems with her disguise. She would most likely be able to quickly recognize her in a crowd. Second, her costume looked like it was expertly sewn. Maybe Marinette was involved. This resulted in 3. Every time she had to avoid a musical note, her hands formed an unusual shape. Before she leapt into the air and did the same thing before hitting the ground, she would notice the tips of her fingers glow. Her fingertips must have been the source of her superpower. I'll take notes later, Aaliyah thought. Aaliyah saw something green approaching the heroes as she kept pursuing them. Whatever it was, it had Ladybug-level acrobatic skills, jumping from rooftop to rooftop. It was then that she noticed him. Wearing a bunny-shaped mask and a metal respirator, the hero who had arrived was dressed in a dark green tracksuit. He was glowing green, too, she noticed. With a shout, the pink heroine said, "Deku, watch your left." The Akuma fired a musical note at the green hero, who leapt to the side. Deku, huh, interesting hero name, Aaliyah said to herself. Deku, the bunny, approached the Akuma and slammed his fist into the ground. The villain laughed at him and skated off. "Please, no touching the merchandise. If you want an autograph, you're gonna want to talk to my manager," he yelled. Aaliyah rolled her eyes. Isn't he a self-centered person? She kept filming for the Ladyblog and following them. Despite her intense desire to concentrate on Ladybug and Cat Noir, she wanted to get the first official picture of the 2 new heroes in action because the internet was already ablaze with talk about them. Before, she had only heard rumors and caught a fleeting glimpse of Deku and the pink girl. Deku started to yell, "Ura," before turning to see Aaliyah pursuing them. "Gravity, we need to limit his mobility." "Got it, Cat Noir, Cataclysm." Aaliyah had to grin. Everyone became adept at reading each other's movements in the course of a single day. When she first put on the Fox Miraculous, they were identical. They were always adept at cooperating and pooling their talents. Aaliyah performed a play-by-play analysis of the action. The pink girl, Gravity I think it was, is using her powers on the ground, and there goes Cat Noir with the ground-pound Cataclysm. That's a ton of debris just launched into the air, folks. If you've got an umbrella, now would be a good time to whip it out, and I don't want vulgar comments posted on here from that, she said. The Akuma was horrified to see the debris hurtling quickly in his direction. He used his trumpet to blow as much of it away as he could, but smaller pieces hit his skates and sent him falling. Deku hurried over to the antagonist and grabbed the trumpet, only for the antagonist to blast himself into the air with the trumpet. All of the heroes were knocked back by the force, with the exception of Aaliyah, who had prepared herself in case something happened. The villain saw that the heroes were staring at him as he fell back to earth. Before he could escape, he had to land safely. After a quick glance around, he discovered a lone civilian standing behind Ladybug. Aaliyah gulped as she looked into the villain's eyes. "Hey heroes, guess who's going to be on the news? I'll give you a hint." Aaliyah heard the villain blow his horn. Ladybug observed the note flying through the atmosphere. It was aimed at her best friend and she couldn't stop it because it was moving too quickly. Aaliyah made an effort to get out of the way, but she was aware of how damaging the note would be. However, Deku turned on his quirk once more across the street, pushing it in the direction of 10%. A bright green blur trailed behind him as he sped down the street. Just as the note struck, Deku slid out of the way and picked up Aaliyah in a bridal manner, leaving Ladybug with no time to react. The villain had already escaped using the propulsion and was being pursued by Cat Noir and Uraraka. As he soared over the Parisian skylight, he laughed. Deku put Aaliyah down and the dust settled around him. He said, "You okay, miss?" Aaliyah gave a nod. "Holy saints, what was that? I was there 1 minute and the next what? What's your power, speed or something?" she yelled. What kind of Miraculous do you have anyway? I get that bunnies are fast, but what? Hold on a minute, bunny." Aaliyah gestured to the top of his mask. "Those are supposed to be bunny ears, right?" she inquired. Coughing from the smoke the music note produced, Ladybug approached him from behind and said, "Wah, no. No, they're not supposed to be. Ladybug, are they bunny ears?" The spotted heroine gave Deku a quick glance before turning her head away. "We gotta catch up to the Akuma. Deku, head on ahead while I make sure Ms. Cessair is kept safe," she stated. Ladybug and then Aaliyah caught Deku's attention. The two best friends were left alone on the street as he nodded and used his quirk to accelerate away. During the conversation, Aaliyah contemplated whether or not to share her knowledge with Marinette. It wasn't right to keep it to herself without telling her, even though it would undoubtedly make her less effective when fighting the Akuma. Ladybug let out a sigh. "Aaliyah, listen, I know that the Ladyblog is very important, but I don't want you risking your life chasing after us like that. It is a miracle that Deku got to you when he did, otherwise I have no idea what would have happened," she stated. "Shall I even bring it up? What?" she asked herself. "In any case, I wouldn't tell anyone." She turned off her phone's livestream and put it away. Ladybug questioned, "Is it off?" Aaliyah gave a nod. "Good. Anyway, I get that being." Ladybug looked around to make sure no one else was present. "I get being Rena Rouge is great and all, but I can't have you running into danger without a Miraculous." "But Ladybug," the heroine with spots let out a sigh. "Sorry, I'm sorry. I promised you an answer about Rena Rouge and I honor my promises. If it were up to me, I would let you stay as her permanently, but it's not up to me," she said. "Right now, that's not the concern," Aaliyah said. "The Akuma is getting away, and unless you can keep him in the air and keep him from using his trumpet from here, you have to be there." Ladybug glanced at her companion. "You have an idea?" Aaliyah gave a nod. "I think I have a grasp on their powers. The bunny guy, Deku, he has speed, right?" Ladybug gestured with a mediocre hand. She stated, "He hasn't elaborated yet. While that Uravity girl can make things float by touching them, right?" "That's right, but, so if you can somehow break his trumpet while he's in the air, he can't escape like he just did," she continued. Ladybug grinned. "Then let's see if I have a trick up my sleeve. This is the reason why I trusted you with the Miraculous before." Aaliyah grinned. "Come on, let's go. You've got an Akuma to shake down and I've got class to get to," she replied. "Of course." Ladybug halted. "Make it or fail. Either reveal the information now or later." She decided. "Ladybug, I want us to meet up later, okay? Don't know when yet, but we need to talk about some things." "Not for the Ladyblog too," she replied. Ladybug was filled with fear, but she was unsure of the cause. "Got it. Now come on, my #1 fan should get a better seat for the main event." In order to give Aaliyah a great vantage point for filming the impending battle, Ladybug dropped her off on a rooftop along the Akuma's route. Ladybug dialed Cat Noir on her ladyphone while getting ready. "Cat Noir, are they with you?" "Yes, but this guy moves quickly. He flees just as we are about to capture him. He is a little trumpet player who is slick. Listen Kitty, we've got a plan. Don't catch up to the Akuma but let Deku and Uraraka get in front of him. Fix on my location and tell Deku to get ready to fly," she stated. There was a pause on the other end, confirming that Uraraka and Deku were also present. "Bugaboo, Deku seems anxious about flying. I believe I heard that correctly," she said. "Just be ready," and hung up. Deku showed up a short while later, carrying Uraraka. Uraraka adjusted her helmet once more before making contact with the ground. "Better than a shuttle, in my opinion," she said. "What's the plan?" Aaliyah watched from the rooftop as Ladybug told the heroes the plan. Her mind was back in the game when the livestream resumed. Naturally, she had to convince herself that a straightforward, "By the way, I know you're Ladybug," would be easier than telling Marinette the truth. Aaliyah started to speak as the heroes paused the explanation. "Team Miraculous is ready for this Akuma. For those at home just tuning in, an Akuma with an affinity to play a trumpet and skate across Paris has been causing some trouble today. Queen Ladybug 816 I agree, the new heroes are definitely something for this dynamic duo." Ladybug used her lucky charm and Aaliyah zoomed in on her. The falling object appeared to be a giant cork, just as she had anticipated. As he got closer to the two new heroes, the Akuma was not far ahead of Cat Noir. Deku's green glow attracted Aaliyah's attention. "Green energy, is anyone else seeing this? Holy saints, he looks like an anime character powering up." She was unaware of her correctness. The Akuma kept skating toward Deku and down the street. In response, the green hero raced in his direction. "Wait, is he?" Deku lifted his fist into the air and delivered a powerful blow to the villain's stomach. With his back to Deku, the villain blew out the last of his remaining air with the trumpet, sending the two of them flying in different directions. With his baton ready, the Akuma flew in Cat Noir's direction. Get ready, I think I'm sensing a kitty home run. The Akuma was launched into the air when Cat Noir struck him with his baton. After following the Akuma for a short while, Aaliyah turned to face Ladybug and Uravity, the pink girl. Ladybug's back glowed pink as Uravity touched it. Oh, this will be good, Aaliyah remarked. Leaping through the air, the two heroines went in the direction of the Akuma. The man prepared his trumpet as he watched them come toward him. Fortunately, they were faster than he was, and Ladybug hit the trumpet with the cork just as the villain was blowing into it. He remarked, "Whoa, that's not good." He repeatedly blew into the trumpet, but was unable to remove the obstruction from his preferred weapon. Uravity then soared higher into the air, passing the Akuma. The antagonist kept blowing into the trumpet. Sadly, he was successful just as he turned to face the sky. Before it flew away and sent him straight down toward the earth, he felt the cork budge. Talk about a fall from grace. He cried out as he lost his balance. "Uravity!" exclaimed Ladybird. The pink heroine angled herself downward and turned off her quirk on both of them. She reached out and caught the villain by his jacket as she flew through the air as quickly as she could. "Gotcha. Great Missy, but I'm about to be a handsome splatter on the rooftops of Paris unless you can fly." "I can't, but Deku." Leaping through the air, the green hero swiftly recovered from his role in the earlier scheme. Just as Uravity was using her quirk on all three of them, he grabbed her by the waist. Ladybug stopped her fall by spinning her yo-yo in a helicopter-like fashion as they flew over the rooftops of Paris. She caught a glimpse of the trumpet resting on the ground near Cat Noir's location. Cat Noir stomped on the trumpet as soon as she landed, releasing the Akuma inside. "Looks like I did the musical world a favor," Cat Noir's statement read. "Be that as it may, but at least it wasn't a drummer villain. First guitar villain and now this guy. We could form a villain band soon enough," said Ladybug. Cat Noir teased, "With you as lead singer, you'd melt the hearts of Paris," which made Ladybug smirk and turn her head away. From her position, Aaliyah yelled, "Get a room you two. This is live right now." Both heroes chuckled. She noticed her lucky charm falling to the ground after purifying and releasing the Akuma. She skillfully captured the enchanted item and released it once more. Miraculous Ladybug. The world around them was restored to its previous state by the enchanted ladybugs from her spell. To buy them some time, the spell even brought the villain, Deku, and Uravity back. Uravity stood up and dropped the villain and the effects of her quirk. After being engulfed in black smoke, the villain transformed back into a young man dressed in black slacks, a white button-up shirt, and a tie. He picked up his trumpet again. His senses came back to him, and he muttered, "Wah, where am I?" "Pound it," the heroes said. Aaliyah was grinning. As the heroes congratulated one another, she halted the livestream and waved to them. After giving her friend a wave in return, Ladybug turned to face the heroes. "I gotta take her home now. Cat Noir, head to the parlor with them." "All right. I'll meet you there," she replied. Cat Noir ignored his ring's urgent beeping and nodded. "I got seconds, but we'll be there, Bugaboo." Leaving her friends behind to meet up later that day, Ladybug grinned and zipped off toward Aaliyah. "He's where?" Ladybug grinned. "Tibet, the country where the Guardian's temple is located. It will be a while before he returns," she said. Cat Noir, Uraraka, and Midoriya exchanged glances. "And it's a what?" inquired Cat Noir. Ladybug laughed. "Well," a cool voice said, "it's complicated." From behind them. When the heroes turned around, they discovered Sass and Snake Kwame behind them. Master Fu is undergoing the trail of the Guardians. Uraraka made contact with the Kwame. "You're very cute, little guy. What's your name?" she inquired. "I'm Sass, and thank you, MSS's. Uraraka," he responded. Uraraka scratched his head and he grinned. "I couldn't help but overhear the SS situation. Master Fu believes the key to your SS salvation is in a vault underneath the temple." In the center of the room, Cat Noir took a seat on the mat. He questioned, "So what's the trail?" "ITSS is an old rite of passage for young Guardian SSS. There are multiple trial SSS, ranging from the Trial of Dreamus, Trial of 7 Stars and the most important one of all, the Trial of the Goddess," Sass said. "Each trial open SSS the door for prospective Miraculous Guardian SSS. The Trial of Dreamus alone is exhausting to take part of." Deku remarked, "But you say gods like they exist, right?" This world doesn't have multiple gods, do they? Sass grinned. My dear Midoriya, true the goddess of old no longer dwell in this realm, however they still exist. The trial Wong Fu ISS currently embarking on ISSSS suppose to choose a Grand Master, he replied. Ladybug gave a nod. He said that it may take a while to hear back from him. The last time a trial like this occurred, it took a master a whole month to complete it. I'm guessing this vault has some very powerful Miraculouses or something. She pondered. Sass gave a headshake. Magical artifacts are a powerful and most sought-after treasure in the world. The Order of the Guardians kept more than just Miraculous hidden from the world. 'Tis one of the great mysteries of the Order, he stated. Midoriya shook his head and grinned. So what's there, anyway? Sass gave a shrug. I'm not too sure honestly. Ever since the creation of the Miraculous, magical objects have existed in this world. Goddess exists by this fact, said the Kwami. Hippolyta, Queen of the Amazons ISS, a descendant of Ares, the god of war and an ancestor to Ladybug ISSS, one true example. Uraraka turned to face Ladybug. She questioned, seriously, you're a descendant of a queen and a demigod? Ladybug gave a shrug. Tiki only told me there were a few past ladybugs but never said their names, she explained. Besides, I'm only a descendant by the Miraculous. We're not related by blood. Midoriya smiled. It's a legacy of heroes. It's just like, he nearly said, All Might and One for All, but Uraraka was the only person in the room who could comprehend, and she was unaware of the whole truth. It's something. Cat Noir glanced at Uraraka and then at Midoriya. Anyway, Ladybug uttered. It'll be a while before he contacts us again, so we have a few things we need to discuss. Sass gave a nod of agreement. The gramophone is one. We cannot leave the miracle box here where someone can break in and take it, he stated. It would be best if someone took it home for safekeeping. Cat Noir held up his hand. Yeah, I can't do that. While it would be great to have something nice in my home, I would be found out in a heartbeat, he replied. And we wouldn't want your family accidentally getting their hands on the Miraculouses, said Ladybug. Midoriya approached the gramophone as they conversed. It looked to be quite old and had a Chinese design. 2 serpents, possibly dragons, ran parallel to each other at its base. Imagining more Kwami inside the instrument, his fingers skimmed the cherry wood. According to their abilities, Adrian is the Kwami of destruction and Ladybug is the Kwami of creation. Perhaps the villain's Kwami is a Kwami of evil. No, the Kwami appears to be acting in a certain way. Maybe generosity, perhaps. Maybe a Kwami of protection, since the Master Fu possessed a turtle Kwami. Could it be? A snake wondered. Deku. When Midoriya turned, Sass and Uraraka were staring at him. The three of them were alone, Ladybug and Cat Noir talking in the background. Waha. Sass remarked, you're in thought, young one. ITSS is not unusual to wonder about the Miraculouses. It ISSS how one controls their curiosity that determines how much one learn SSS. Uraraka gave a nod. She questioned, are you muttering to yourself again? Midoriya reddened. I just won't get over that, huh? Uraraka gave a headshake. Don't get over it though. It really looks like you pay attention and really get into new information, she replied. I won't say it, but it's kind of cute when someone catches him mumbling. Midoriya turned to the gramophone and grinned. He questioned, is it always in here, Sass? For the most part. The good master had some difficulty hiding it once he came to Paris in the early 20th century, however he managed to find alternative ways of hiding it, he stated. Hiding in plain sight was beneficial because no one was looking for him back then. Ladybug and Cat Noir were discussing the same problem as the teenagers wondered about the miracle box inside. It'll really stand out at my home, is all I'm saying, Cat replied. But we cannot leave it here. As much as I would love to take this to my home, it's going to be very difficult to explain to my family that the gramophone is from an old member of the Order of the Guardians of the Miraculous, replied Ladybug. It's not an easy thing to hide. Sass said, speak for yourself, young one. It needs to be done. Exactly, Cat concurred. Ladybug let out a sigh. If it's not too heavy, maybe I can. Her ladyphone started ringing at that moment. Her partner had raised his hands in the air when she looked up at him. He declared, I'm not but dialing you again. And no one else has a Miraculous, unless Hawkmoth wants to give up, she stated while looking through her phone. After some time, you can have your contact SSSSSSYNC between your civilian form and hero form, Sass stated. The caller turned out to be Ladybug's mother. Every hair on her neck stood on end as she instantly recognized the number. She said, I gotta take this," and hurried out of the room. She took the call, closing the door behind her. "Hello. Marinette, you're where?" her mother said. "The school said you haven't reported back after the Akuma was defeated." The pig-tailed hero looked around the space. Well. On the other end, she heard her mother sigh. She said, "It's okay, at least I know you're safe. What is this about you working as an intern at Wong Fu's massage parlor?" In her mind, Ladybug cursed multiple times. Well, I wasn't sure when it would be good to. I wish you had told me. The man who secured you a temporary internship is someone I would have loved to meet and thank." The heroine was incredulous. "Just now, he called to let me know that he was leaving town and asked you to take a gramophone." Ladybug grinned. "The ideal ruse. Why yeah, sorry, but it completely slipped my mind. I'll bring it right over and head back to school," she said. Her mother's laughter reached her ears. "Marinette, don't worry about it. However, avoid becoming habitually absent when an Akuma attacks. Instead of outside, where the Akuma might be, I would prefer that you be here or at school." Ring ring, another client. "Honey, I'll see you soon. I adore you," she said. "Love you too, Mom," and hung up. Slumping onto the door, she let out a sigh and burst out laughing. Of all the times to call, she had to call now. When she returned to the room after gathering herself, Cat Noir was narrating to the two heroes about one of their earliest adventures. "Popped and we were falling to the ground faster than I could think, but Ladybug. Oh my god, she was able to think quick and have me use my staff to slow our descent," he continued. Ladybug grinned. "Too bad you can't land on all fours like a cat. In fact, you can't land on your 2 feet sometimes," she chuckled. Cat grinned and shrugged. "It could be worse though," he remarked. Ladybird agreed with a nod. "Anyway, I think our issue with the gramophone is dealt with. I'll be taking it until he gets back," she replied. "I think I can find a way to disguise it so it'll fit in." Uraraka grinned. She said, "Perfect, Sue, what now? I'd like to explore more of Paris for now. If we're going to be here for a while, then I think we need to get used to the area," Midoriya stated. Cat said, "How about patrol nights? We used to do it a while ago and it was very successful." Ladybug remarked, "Until the winter time, you have a good point though. It's a good idea to go out at night when there aren't many people out." Sass grinned. "It's is good to become familiar with the land you are given. We must have faith in Wong Fu's endeavor and that he will return to USSS." Everyone gave a nod of agreement. Sass went back to the miracle box while Ladybug picked up the gramophone. With Midoriya at his heels, Cat Noir bounded back toward the school to retrieve his civilian clothes from the Dupan Cheng residence. Now transformed back into a civilian, Ladybug strolled home with Uraraka in tow. After a couple of days, Master Fu ascended the final flight of stairs to the destroyed temple on the opposite side of the globe. The cold and the thought of going back to where he had failed made him shudder. His thoughts strayed as he got closer to the enormous oak doors that led to the structure. The incident had occurred more than a century ago. He recalled the sound of hundreds of Kwami and people screaming into the wind, the smell of burning wood, and different bottles of incense and other liquids smashing on the ground. Fearing that someone would be waiting for him, he never went back to the temple after it was destroyed. The ancient lanterns that led to the doors were touched by his fingers. When he first arrived at the temple, he recalled the moment he climbed up and saw how hot they were. He occasionally experienced the burning feeling while working. Overlooking the valley he emerged from, Master Fu, wearing a straw hat and a heavy jacket, braced himself against the blizzard. He started to shiver as soon as his Kwami flew out of his jacket. He stumbled, Master, is this right TTT? Wong pushed on the doors and shook his head. I don't know. But if the path to our success is easy to navigate, it is not worth navigating," he replied. "WWW, which is an excuse FFF for you wanting in the Vow Vault," Waze said. Fu grinned. "I guess so." The final Master Guardian of the Miraculous entered the temple through the open doors. With his Kwami following, Master Wong Fu made his way through the temple. His fingers would graze the walls of the now demolished structure as he moved, recalling a time when he was still too young to believe that the order would solve all of his issues. Waze became somewhat alarmed as he passed a number of damaged tapestries and shattered pieces of armor. Waze had been aware of the fog covering his master's eyes ever since they reached the village at the foot of the mountain. He recalled that many years before the current events, Fu had first experienced nightmares about the temple's destruction. He recalled the times he defended himself in his sleep, saying he had nothing to do with the devastation. The two walked up to a wall-mounted, golden candelabra. There was magic in the air, but any outsider would have thought it was just a typical steel candelabra with one branch missing. When Master Fu applied pressure to the still-hot object, a door concealed in the wall opened, revealing a staircase that descended into the center of the mountain. Master Fu grabbed an old torch from the wall and they both swallowed. Master Fu reached into his bag and took out a few items, including some oil, some old rags, a flint, and steel to light the torch. He used the rag to wrap the end of the torch, sprayed it with oils, and set it on fire. As he held the torch for the Kwame, Waze did. Now that there was a sufficient amount of light, the two went downstairs. Waze was aware of what was happening. Additionally, he was aware that since he started a human trial, things had changed. First, the cave system below was guarded by a different Kwame after the one he mentioned moved on. More than anything else, that fact was the reason for his hesitation. Nevertheless, he trusted his master, and they put in years of effort to reach the point where they used their magic and never changed back to civilian form. And speaking of which, they were getting closer to their goal. Master, Waze whispered. Hold on a second. Halfway down the stairs, the two came to a halt. Yes, Waze. The Kwame let out a sigh. He repeated his question, are you sure about this? Master Fu gave a nod. It needs to be done. I will not deny that my curiosity is also benefiting from this adventure, he acknowledged. The Guardians thought their conversations were completely secret in these halls. He raised his eyebrows. Weren't they wrong? Waze looked around the cavern as they came down the stairs. He said, I sense something, with caution. Master, do you remember what I advised earlier? We have to be transformed in order to progress past the Guardian and I sense he is near. Master Fu came to a halt. An impossible gust of wind caused his torch to flicker. You're right. What are the conditions of this trial? He inquired. We have to be transformed throughout the entire trial. That means we need a mastery of our powers and endurance, he said. If we break the transformation, the magic in the area will separate us indefinitely, ending the trial. He lifted his wrist to display his Miraculous and said, then we should be more careful. Waze, shell on. During his metamorphosis, Master Fu wore black baggy pants and a winter jacket that resembled green armor. Like a straw hat, his shield materialized on his head. He felt 100 years younger as new vitality shot through his body. He hadn't changed in a very long time. Master Fu descended the stairs while holding the torch until he came to a spacious cavern with two enormous rosewood doors. It appeared that someone else had previously entered because the doors were already open. A lone figure was standing at the entrance to a cave when he forced his way through the doors. The man was well over 6 feet tall. His hair and beard were jet black, and he was golden tanned. He was dressed in shorts and sandals that reached his kneecaps, and he had a golden lion's pelt on his back. Naturally, he had no shirt on, and his muscles were clearly visible. His eyes glistened with gold as he turned around. He was instantly recognized by Master Fu from the old texts from his initiate days. The man was legendary, Heracles, god of heroes. When he heard his name, the man grinned. Good evening, Wang Fu. It has been a while, he exclaimed. Returning to Paris, as Marinette put on the final pair of her wrist braces, Uraraka was in her room. Marinette gave the gravity heroine in training a thumbs up, and she grinned with her helmet already on. It looks like a hassle to put on if I'm being honest, she said. Yeah, that is my fault. I love the design though, so it's alright, she replied. Really, it's not uncomfortable, Uraraka chuckled. Uraraka said, to be honest, I'm glad it's like this instead of Momo's uniform. Mine covers everything but it's skin tight. Hers is skin tight and shows off most of her chest. Marinette's mouth fell open. Seriously. Uraraka was blazing red. Not like that. Some of her is covered, she said, pointing to the general area of her creation friend's home that was exposed. It's all a part of her quirk. Tiki lay on her charge's couch and Marinette sighed. Why is your friend exposing so much of herself? She inquired. Well, her quirk creates non-living things from her body. It's best that it comes from exposed skin because her leotard can be ripped if she makes big things underneath her clothes, she said. My friend Jiro explained that to me ages ago when we were first attacked by villains. Tiki gave a sympathetic nod. So it's for express delivery then. Aha, we've been debating on how to overcome that situation with her, but until then she's exposed-ish. Marinette gave a nod. Taking her phone off her desk, she looked at the time. Okay. It's going to be with Cat Noir and Deku tonight, okay. I have homework to catch up on, but I should be done in an hour or so. Head on out and I'll guide you to the meeting place, she said. You still have that earpiece, right? Uraraka reached into one of the pockets of her belt and took out a tiny earpiece. To activate it, she pressed on it after inserting it into her ear. Good. Keep on comms until we all meet up. Grinning, the gravity girl leapt to the roof through the trapdoor. After turning on the earpiece, she leapt off the roof and set out to meet the boys. Uraraka had become accustomed to being in a different dimension over the last few days. She was more concerned about unintentionally using her quirk in Marinette's room and her Kwame unexpectedly showing up than she was about homework assignments and Mineta in the showers. Naturally, she was behind on her quirk training because of the alleged break. Deku was assisting with that, which was fortunate for the gravity heroine. Her thoughts drifted to some of their quirk training moments throughout the city as she observed its sights. They frequently practiced in parks and on rooftops where no one would bother them. However, people thought they were on a date whenever they engaged in that activity. And, as far as she was aware, dates weren't about superpowers and shadow boxing in the park. Uraraka returned to her patrolling after hearing a beep. Marinette said, "Hey, it's me," from her chamber. Uraraka said, "Mari Ladybug. Is this an open channel?" "Nope, though I'd refrain from using my name until we know for sure." "These things still confuse me sometimes," Marinette replied. "You almost at the florist's shop?" According to Uraraka, "Yeah, just passing it now." "Good, keep going east until you see the Louvre. You're not going much further from there so you'll be seeing Cat Noir around there," she said. "Of course I'm sure Deku is more noticeable so look out for him." Uraraka grinned. In essence, her friend was a walking glow stick. Even though he occasionally sounded like one when it was ignited, she forced herself to ignore the thought, but a smile still appeared. "He's surely a beacon when powered up. Which is something I wanted to talk about. Do you know anything about that? 'Cause the other night he wasn't moving as fast when he wasn't glowing," said Marinette. "Do all quirks do that?" "Not to my knowledge," Uraraka said frankly. "Deku has more notes about quirks than anyone else I know." "Yeah, I was thinking that. And by the way, do you want to talk about, Uraraka was perplexed by Marinette's hesitation. "Talk about? Well, it doesn't matter. We can talk when we're done for the night," she said. No, what is it?" "Talk about quirks. Our patrols. What?" Her questions were followed by silence as Marinette considered whether or not to speak. "Well, when do you want to talk about Deku?" Uraraka remained perplexed. She stopped on a rooftop a few kilometers away from the Louvre and asked, "What do you mean?" "Well, what we weren't talking about the other day. Uraraka had a clear memory of what she was discussing. A few days prior, Marinette had spoken to her about Deku and how she would talk positively about him. The gravity girl retreated a few paces, her face burning red. "Well, I don't think this is the best time," she blurted out quickly. I know. But at some point we have to talk about this," she replied. Uraraka shook her head angrily. She didn't want to discuss her crush on Deku with him, nor did she want to do so on a potentially public channel. We'll talk about it later." Under her breath, Marinette said, "Wow, so that's what it's like on the other side, okay. Just get to the Louvre, I think they're there." Uraraka crept closer to the glass pyramid, shaking off her embarrassment. She really wanted to take a tour of it, but she hadn't been inside yet. "With Deku, perhaps I could." Once more, her face was blazing red. Given the red glow she was emitting, she was shocked that no one had noticed her. Fortunately, a call for assistance broke the train of thought. "He took my purse. That ruffian stole my purse." Looking over a rooftop, Uraraka saw a man in black running away with a purse in his hands while a blonde teenager screamed. With determination and a hint of excitement, she ran after the thief. Her first petty crime was this one. Before the criminal's gaze settled on the gravity heroine, she watched him look around the rooftops. He turned into an alleyway and grinned. Uraraka leapt from the roof and slid into the alleyway after skidding down the walls. She was barely able to squeeze past a number of boxes and trash cans as she pursued the criminal on foot. Before the robber stopped in front of a chain-link fence, the alleyway opened up. Uraraka closed in on him, and he turned to meet her gaze. In front of her, the man dangled the purse. "Hello, girlie. Didn't you know that Halloween already passed?" Uraraka walked up to the thief with a frown. "Give that back," she insisted. The robber grinned wildly. "You're gonna have to pass us all," he stated. From the alley's shadows came 3 more men and a woman, some brandishing baseball bats and knives. "Stop trying to play hero, girlie," said the robber. First, 2 men pushed forward. Uraraka was successfully dodging as one of them swung a knife at her. She took a few more steps back and then stepped to the side. She took hold of the man's arm and the nape of his neck, then swung him around by riding his momentum. The force of the impact knocked the knife out of his hand as she slammed him into one of his teammates. Uraraka throws the thug into a trash can, knocking him unconscious, while the other man crouches. Before hurling him to the ground, she repeatedly pressed her knee into the man's stomach. The gravity heroine quickly ducked when the other woman swung her bat at her. She snatched up the bat, yanked it away, and then punched the woman. She back-kicked the woman in the stomach, sending her to the ground, and yanked the bat back, disarming the attacker. After discarding the bat, the gravity heroine turned to discover that the purse thief had scaled a fence and fled down the alleyway. Uraraka swore to herself and then noticed a metal trash can that was still there. She emptied the contents, triggered her quirk, and positioned her shot. She tossed the garbage can into the air and saw it drift in the direction of the burglar. Grinning, she prepared to cancel her quirk. Release. The trash can fell back to the ground as its gravity returned. She eagerly watched as the thief was knocked unconscious by the trash can slamming into his head. This caused the purse to fly into the air. She ran over to the thief, yelping with pride as she fisted the air. If only that were being recorded. After a short while, all of the thugs were left in the alleyway after being bound with zip ties. Uraraka left the responsibility of returning the purse to herself and called the police to come and get them. She saw the blonde teenager on the phone as she dashed out of the alleyway. "Daddy, why hasn't the military been called yet?" "No, I couldn't find Ladybug or Cat Noir to chase the guy down." "Well, it did have important things in there." She was essentially screaming into the phone. Uraraka didn't like her attitude at all, but she held back her criticism because true heroes didn't disparage the general populace. She walked over to the girl and gave her a shoulder tap. Miss." The gravity heroine was silenced when the blonde raised her hand. Hanging the purse over her shoulder so she could see it, she sighed. The blonde grabbed her purse and turned off her phone, so it seemed to work. "My purse." As soon as the blonde smelled it, her excitement persisted throughout her phone call. She flinched in disgust. "You, gross. What happened? Did you dig it out of a trash can?" Uraraka gave a shrug. "Sort of. A replica mask and a ladybug doll were the only items inside, so the blonde reached in and took them both." After tossing the bag in the garbage, she turned to leave. "Nice job, hero," she exclaimed. Uraraka couldn't say anything. Before the dorm system was put in place, the bag must have been worth more than the rent she was paying for her apartment back home. She shook her head, turned on her quirk, and jumped onto the nearby rooftop. She arrived late for patrol. Deku, Cat Noir, and Ladybug were waiting for her when she got to the rooftop. Deku was closest to the ledge when she got there, so she almost jumped out of her skin. "Gee guys, what are you?" "We were watching," Cat Noir stated plainly. "We were about to intervene before you took down those guys all by yourself. Nice work disarming them all." "Uraraka, that was awesome," exclaimed Deku, a bit too confidently. "That was Gunhead's martial arts, right?" The gravity girl nodded and grinned. "I've been practicing in the dorms as well, so I built upon it," she continued. The Parisian night glistened in Deku's eyes and smile. As Deku made mental notes to learn some martial arts techniques, Ladybug came up to her. "You all right? I saw a knife in there." Her response was, "Oh yeah, all good." "Good, because I recorded that whole thing. I'll send it to you later," she remarked, grinning. Uraraka recomposed herself and smiled. "All right, we have our patrol routes. Great, so let's get started. Let's not stay out too long tonight, all right?" The heroes gave a nod. "Oh, and by the way, I checked the Ladyblog a while ago and Aaliyah has an open invitation for you guys to take part in an interview," Ladybug said. The two heroes' mouths fell open. "Wah, really?" Ladybug gave a nod. "We'll discuss it later, but for right now, we got work to do." After choosing their patrol routes, the heroes set out into the Paris night. Regardless of the religion you practice, it is customary to bow before a god. Offer a cup of coffee, a sacrifice, or a bow. However, Master Fu was unable to do anything but stare silently into Heracles' golden eyes. Heracles exuded a sense of unadulterated strength and menace. His body felt like it was on fire, and his legs were like jelly. The god grinned. "Wang Fu, you are given permission to speak to myself," he said. The old master remained stunned. But Heracles roared with laughter. "Dear Wang, please cease with the amazement. True, it is not every day you meet with such a god as myself," he yelled, "though I hope to hear of your voice at least once this millennia." When Fu heard this, he got over his surprise and grinned. "Dear Heracles, I apologize. I was just not expecting to see you down here," he said. The god grinned. "Yes, well, ever since the collapse of the temple, Lord Zeus commanded me to oversee the transfer of magical items to a separate facility," he said. "The process is close to completion, though." "Why, wait a minute," you said. The god grinned. "The guardians still live, young one. Albeit they live in seclusion somewhere else in the world, though I'm sure with some careful searching, one can find them," he continued. The elderly master grinned. "Anyway, I suspect you are not here to chat with an old god. Wang Fu, state your business here," Heracles said. In place, the old master bowed. "Lord Heracles, I wish to complete the final trial to become a Grand Master Guardian and pass on my knowledge to an apprentice," he replied. "I ask that I pass you in order to accomplish this." The god of heroes grinned and said, "Is it true that you need an object that can travel through dimensions in order to bring two kids home?" he said. The old god laughed, and Master Fu's eyes grew wide. "Don't make me look foolish, dearest Fu. I am a god of heroes, and I have authority over everyone who is worthy of that title. If anything, I have jurisdiction over all people," he said. "There are benefits to being the divine protector of humanity. I am aware of the two heroes who have made this world their home." Yes. Izuku Midoriya and Ochako Uraraka," Heracles said as he gazed off into the distance and used his imagination to locate the two heroes. He pondered for a short time before Master Fu was able to bring him back to reality. "Interesting kids from another dimension, and I can sense my magic around them, Yes, yes," said the old master, gesturing down the god of heroes. "With your consent, Lord Heracles, I would like to proceed with the trial," he declared. The god went up to the old master, took off his hat and shield, dropped it to the ground, and then measured his height. He also did a quick physical examination of Fu, particularly by taking a tape measure off his person and measuring his length from arm to arm. "A Miraculous, no doubt. Weighs," he said, testing the suit he was wearing and picking up the shield. He inquired. "Despite popular belief, the shield is a really good choice for offense as well as defense," Heracles said, nodding as he handed the shield back to Master Fu. "I'm sure you'll be astute enough to use it. But I think you shouldn't do this alone," Master Fu said, nodding. "Of course, it is your decision," he said, adding that the previous masters had also traveled through the trial with their preferred Kwami. "How can I do that if he is in my Miraculous?" Master Fu said, gesturing to himself. The Guardians were clever when it came to their potion work since they possessed no magical power to begin with, as I'm sure you are familiar with, the god of heroes said, grinning as he called forth a dark wooden table behind him that contained a single small vial of a purple liquid with a cork inside. He took the vial and gave it to the old master. Recalling his own early experiences creating potions, Fu grinned sheepishly and said, "Perhaps you are familiar with this brew then." After taking a whiff of the potion and giving it to Master Fu, he uncorked the vial and nodded. "A duality potion. Able to permit direct communication with your Kwami while transformed," Heracles said, nodding. He suggested, "I hope you two have a closer relationship so your abilities don't suffer." "Permission to drink in a god's presence." Fu nodded. "If there was one here, they'd say yes," Heracles joked with a smile. A gust of impossible wind entered the cavern and blew past the elder master as he finished the vial, at which point his Miraculous began to glow a bright green. Master Fu barely noticed as a spectral form of Ways appeared before him, bewildered out of his Kwami mind. "Waha?" he asked. "Trials like this require both minds to be able to interact with each other," Heracles said with a smile. He clarified, "It demonstrates that humans and Kwami are willing to collaborate in a variety of circumstances, plus you may bounce ideas off each other." "Lord Heracles, it has truly been a long time since I have last seen you," the Kwami said, bowing before Heracles. Likewise, young Ways. Master Fu's heart was pounding. All right, let's start your trial. Heracles gestured to the big doors behind him and said, unfortunately, there has been a recent situation that has escalated. Dark forces have established themselves inside the cave network ever since the temple was destroyed. Their goal is to access the vault and all of its magical capabilities. Dark forces, similar to spirits? Ways inquired. Heracles nodded. If you can get rid of these nasty things from the tunnel system, Wang Fu, I'll overlook the trial's usual procedure. I'm sure you already know that the vault is full of dangerous and potent magical artifacts. The world might suffer a great deal if these creatures get their claws on any of them, he suggested. Remember, if you and your Kwami have formed a strong bond, you should be able to use your power multiple times, said Master Fu, bowing before the great god. The local magic may confiscate your Kwami if you transform at any point during the trial, in which case you will fail. But I hope you succeed. Thank you, Lord Heracles. The god grinned as the enormous doors opened to reveal a pitch-black cavern. Master Fu and Ways eyed one another before proceeding to their trial. Are you prepared, Ways? I was going to ask you the same question, the Kwami answered. After they both entered the cavern and the doors were sealed, Master Fu looked around in the torchlight, the only light in the tunnel, and saw that, aside from a few broken columns and shields with swords protruding from them, the area was rather pleasant. However, a few steps further revealed broken Miraculouses and skeletons lying on the floor. Ways shuddered and murmured, bad magic is here, adding, we have to be careful. Master Fu noticed a ruby amulet hanging from a wall. It had a golden highlighted ruby center with a golden chain, and the center jewel had a huge crack. The old master reached for the amulet, then withdrew. It's a Miraculous, he whispered. Oh no, what's going on down here? Ways inquired. The tunnel was filled with growls and snarls instead of intelligent speech, and Ways hid behind the old master as the snarling grew louder. Shadowy figures appeared out of the darkness. Master Fu took off his hat, shield and prepared for any enemies. The figures were humanoid creatures with sharpened claws for hands and pointed ankles for feet. Their forms resembled television static, and their eyes glowed yellow. Master Fu raised his shield with a fierce determination in his eyes, saying, Ways, if you can, find cover. Be you but master. The figures lunged for the transparent Kwami, and Master Fu used his magic shield to bash one of the monsters' heads, stalling its charge. Another leapt over the first monster and slashed at Fu's shield, its claws scraping down the magical metal as Fu pulled it back before slamming it into the monster's head. The first monster got back up and lunged again, but Master Fu turned and kicked the creature in the back, causing it to recoil slightly. A stab of pain shot through Master Fu's leg, but he ignored it. Another monster charged, only to collide with the shield once more. Two more monsters emerged from the shadows, obstructing the path. Master Fu grinned and charged at the creatures. After a week, time moved differently for the rest of the world while Master Fu advanced through the trial. The two events were magically influenced, allowing the time of the temporarily reformed Team Miraculous to adjust to their changes. On some days, it was the original Team Miraculous as well, and on other days, it was Uraraka and Cat Noir doing patrol together or Deku with Ladybug. And Ladybug went out with Deku tonight. As they stood over the Champs-Élysées, observing the traffic flow, Deku proudly wore his mask after nearly taking down an Akuma on his own. Naturally, Ladybug wasn't happy about some of the damage the city had sustained, so she turned to the green hero and asked, "Are you sleeping okay?" She inquired. "I'm still looking for a good gym to learn some martial arts," Midoriya said, nodding. The other night, Uraraka was really onto something, he remarked. "You don't have a specific martial art, but you have a great power," Ladybug said with a smile. The heroine teased, "Don't tell me you just punch things and hope for the best." Laughing, Midoriya said, "Sometimes I kick too." "So, have you and Uraraka talked about the interview my friend wants to do?" The spotted heroine asked, trying not to laugh. Well, we talked about it," Midoriya said, turning away. "We've never done one before, but it's okay," he muttered. "Don't worry about it," Ladybug said with a smile. "I've done our fair share of interviews with Cat Noir. I know Aaliyah enough to know what she might want to ask," she said. "I'll let Aaliyah know you guys are interested and we'll work on some practice questions. You two are acquainted from your civilian lives." Ladybug nodded, "But it's still a secret. In any case, let's wrap up this final run and discuss some potential subjects tomorrow." Aaliyah Césaire was as happy as she could be on a lovely Sunday afternoon in Paris, having persuaded her family to take the day off so she could have her apartment to herself for her interview. When they got there, Aaliyah asked Ladybug and Cat Noir for assistance in moving the majority of the furniture toward the kitchen, leaving only the couch and a single seat for the vlogger. Aaliyah, whose techniques had improved since her first interview with Ladybug a year ago, had a clear shot of herself and where the two heroes would be sitting, thanks to tripods made for cell phones. Speaking of the heroes, they were in the kitchen talking among themselves as though they were in a familiar place, like a school, and Aaliyah observed their interactions, smiling as she continued to prepare the place for the interview, and Uravity, the pink girl, seemed to look away whenever the green hero approached her. Ladybug and Cat Noir were also chatting among themselves on the balcony. The spotted heroine expressed concern about her new house guests, saying, "Worried every day that Akuma will get bored and fly out of the thing. I'm sure Sass has explained to them that they shouldn't," Cat Noir said with a smile and a shrug. "How are your folks liking it anyway?" "My dad is being very careful of it," Ladybug said, laughing. "At least it functions like a standard gramophone, but he can't handle vinyl records the way my mom and I can," she remarked. "I was concerned that it wouldn't." "You've seen Fantastic Beasts, right?" her partner said with a smile. He inquired. "The gramophone is the guy's suitcase," Cat said, "but we just can't get in it," Ladybug nodded. "Could be worse, could be a genie's lamp or something." His partner grimaced, but Cat caught a glimpse of a smile beneath her palm. He grinned insanely, reveling in the glory of his deduction. She asserted, "But genies don't exist." "Kwame do," she said. "Remember the gods and monsters." According to Sass, Kwame used to communicate with the gods in the past, Cat said. "Which I still don't believe." The two heroes entered the apartment and took their places behind the two interview phones when there was a knock on the window behind them, signaling the start of the interview. The two heroes sat across from Aaliyah while Ladybug and Cat Noir prepared for the interview. Earlier in the day, Aaliyah learned how to have multiple angles present in a live interview after watching a lot of them online and reading some advice from entertainers and camera people. Aaliyah drew Uraraka and Midoriya away before they were prepared, saying, "Are you guys ready?" She inquired. "Don't worry, it's all pretty standard questions about you guys," they said, nodding, though they weren't entirely sure how to respond. "What is your hometown? How did you acquire your abilities? Okay, so what about your guys' relationship with Ladybug and Cat Noir?" "We just haven't done an interview before," Midoriya said, nodding. "It wasn't something we were taught to do back home," Uraraka said, concurring. Aaliyah grinned and said, "Don't worry, Ladybug and Cat Noir were both quite uncertain when I interviewed them. But Cat Noir was actually doing a better job with his interview than I thought," she suggested. "Just take it easy, and if a question is too difficult to answer, take your time to answer or we can just skip it." When they were both ready, Aaliyah signaled to Ladybug to begin the live interview, giving a brief countdown before they went live. Midoriya grinned. He knew why, but he wasn't going to share it. "Hello everyone," Aaliyah said, grinning into the camera. "We have a special episode for you all today, and it's Aaliyah from the Ladyblog." The two new heroes of Paris agreed to participate in a special two-part interview with us today. Greetings to our new heroes. Okay guys, this'll be a two-part interview, meaning that after my standard questions are finished, I will open it to the viewers to ask their questions to one or both of you, Midoriya said, smiling and waving into the camera, while Uraraka wore her helmet. "It's acceptable if you decline. Are you ready?" "Before I forget, we have two special guests here as well," the two said, nodding. Ladybug and Cat Noir are behind the cameras today. They've offered to support today's new heroes. I was assured of cookies. Cat Noir yelled. "Hello Paris," the spotted heroine said, and Ladybug and Uraraka chuckled as Cat Noir's camera panned to her. "Great," said Aaliyah, shaking her head at their antics. "Well, let's introduce ourselves first. I'm Uravity," said Uraraka, who began first. "And I'm Deku," added Midoriya. Apparently perplexed, Aaliyah said, How do you guys spell that?" She inquired. You have any paper or maybe a dry erase board?" the two asked, surveying the room. Midoriya inquired. With a nod, Aaliyah went to her sister's room and came back with two boards and markers, and the two of them quickly wrote their names, though Midoriya knew she would find it difficult to translate it later. Sorry, but we don't know enough French to know how to spell our names out," he said after they gave the reporter their names. "Hopefully someone can translate it for you to use later," Uraraka said. I don't know, Aaliyah said, looking up at the two after reading their names. She pointed to the boards and said, those are in French. It looks like you guys know plenty of French. No, it's in Japanese, Uraraka said, glancing at her board, which had the ideal kanjis for her hero name and had nothing to do with French. You guys are also speaking French, said Aaliyah, shaking her head. She said, I had no idea you were from Japan. Aaliyah put the matter to rest for the time being, and Ladybug looked at the boards, which were written in French for her. She looked at her partner, who was equally as shocked as she was. He shrugged and remained silent. Anyway, it's good to meet you guys, she added. Now, let's get started. Let's begin with a question that many Parisians have been pondering for some time. Do you both have miraculouses like Ladybug and Cat Noir? There are no miracles here, Uraraka said, shaking her head. These abilities, or quirks as we refer to them, were innate in us, she remarked. Quirks, aren't they superpowers? Some of them are, in fact. Some have simple while others have complex powers or mutations, Midoriya explained. They're called quirks because where we come from, there are people with simple powers or mutations that are not super, but they are still, there. So, what are your quirks? Asked Aaliyah, nodding. Although we have observed some of its operation in the field, we still don't fully comprehend it. Just the essential details should be sufficient, she stated. I have these pads on my fingers that let me take the weight off of whatever I touch, said Uraraka, grinning. Mine is gravity, hence my name. Aaliyah chuckled, and Midoriya grinned. For it to function, all 5 or all 10 pads must make contact with the object. She turned to face Midoriya and grinned. Aaliyah recognized the expression in her eyes and said, like so. She then put her hand on Midoriya's cheek. Everyone in the room laughed as Midoriya started to slowly get out of his chair after feeling her hand on his cheek. Why did I know you were going to do that? He asked, and Uraraka smiled. Oh wow, you do that often, she said, grabbing his hand to prevent him from hitting the ceiling. Aaliyah inquired. Only if I need to, but that's an excellent idea, said the gravity girl, shaking her head. So, how long will he act that way? Uraraka put her hands together and said, until I manually cancel the effects of my quirk. Release. That was fun, said Midoriya, who angled himself to land on his feet in front of the chair and staggered as his gravity returned before settling back down. As Midoriya glanced at Uraraka, Aaliyah grinned. How about you, Deku? What precisely is your quirk? Well, it's a bit difficult to explain really, Uraraka said, waiting in secret for this question to come up. Ladybug and Cat Noir exchanged glances. Well, it's strength. Aaliyah and Uraraka furrowed their brows. Power. But it's not just strength in my arms, Midoriya said, nodding. You see, my quirk is a kind of enhancement quirk. I have the ability to manually build up my strength and distribute it wherever I desire. I used to only spread it to my arms for attacks, but lately I was able to spread it all over my body in this way. His body glowed and arcs of green energy surged around him as he stood up and activated his full cowl. Aaliyah almost jumped backwards from the unexpected display, but she saw that Uraraka was unaffected. I call it full cowl. I have gained speed and agility at the expense of strength by distributing my power evenly throughout my body. I could hurt myself if I exert too much of my strength, he said. Midoriya concluded, it's sort of a drawback to that technique, before shutting off full cowl and taking a seat again. That explains how you saved me from that roller skating Akuma some time ago, Aaliyah said, nodding. All right, good to know that information, the green hero said with a nod. All right, based on the kanjis you use, I assume you're from Japan. Where are you all from, then? What is the duration of your stay in Paris? The two friends looked at one another, and Ladybug became anxious as well because she knew that the audience would find the revelation of the alternate dimension thing too much to handle. Midoriya started. We're from a small town several miles south from Tokyo, Uraraka began, after giving it some more thought, because the town has a school that allows us to train our quirks and become heroes in the future. Since Tokyo is so close to it, we just associate with it, Midoriya continued, sighing with relief because he was worried he would reveal the wrong information. All right, interesting, the reporter said, nodding. She acknowledged. It's interesting that such a concept exists, but the only time I've heard of a school that trained super-powered teams was when I read the X-Men comics. The training heroes became a little more at ease. So, it seems like an intriguing location. What is the curriculum like there, then? We have pretty standard subjects like hero studies, hero art, and histories along with some foreign language classes, Midoriya said. It's exhausting to say the least. But studying isn't everything. Sports festivals are held here. Cultural festivals, field trips to agencies, and general quirk enhancement sessions where we strengthen our powers, Uraraka said. Fortify. Do you mean that you can enhance your abilities? We consider our quirks to be an extension of our bodies, they both nodded. Strengthening them is crucial to becoming strong heroes and heroines because they are a part of us, Midoriya stated. Observing that Ladybug was also in agreement, Aaliyah nodded. All right, for there to be a school that trains future heroes and quirks, there must be some seasoned heroes and heroines for quirks, Uraraka said, nodding. Could you both provide me with examples of some of the professionals you have encountered? A broad smile spread across Midoriya's face, and he cursed himself for leaving all of his hero notebooks in his dorm. Well, I suppose we can begin with Mr. Aizawa, Uraraka remarked. Who? He teaches our homeroom. As a teacher, he was the first pro hero we encountered. Eraserhead is his hero name, Midoriya remarked. All right, erasure is his quirk, Uraraka said. Basically, he can erase the nature of quirks just by looking at someone. Aaliyah was impressed. Really? Midoriya interjected. Really? He has some support gear, which is like what we have along with our costumes. His gear includes a set of goggles that allows him to look at any villain or even a hero if he needs to without the target knowing who he is looking at. He is a skilled fighter with the use of his bandages that he wears around his neck to act like a capture weapon. Midoriya explained. Aaliyah thought, whoa, so enthusiastic. Of course it has drawbacks, Uraraka went on. He has to stare at the target to cancel their power because of the nature of his quirk. The effect fades if he looks away or blinks. He is wearing eye drops for that reason. There is some serious dry eye in that line of work, the reporter said. Additionally, there is 13, the space hero. They have a quirk called Black Hole, and they wear a giant space suit, Uraraka explained. Black Hole can suck in and disintegrate anything that comes close enough to it when they use their finger to activate their quirk. More often than not, they use it for search and rescue missions. Sounds dangerous to be around, said Aaliyah. And we don't really know what 13 looks like. Additionally, we are unaware of their true voice because they are wearing a voice modifier. Things were starting to get interesting in the interview. And there's Present Mike. Voice is a quirk. The majority of heavy machinery can be drowned out by his voice projection. And Midnight, whose quirk can put people to sleep by a special smell emitting from her body. But it works on men more than women, Midoriya clarified. Gee, good to know, Aaliyah said with a sly smile. Aaliyah wanted to finish the interview even though the two were going to meet every professional they had ever encountered. Okay, that's enough, she said. I still have questions for you guys. After calming down a little, the two heroes said, all right, you guys have a lot of professional teachers, but I'd like to know a little bit more about you. What motivates your guys to be heroes? Or maybe just being yourself? Gravity, we'll begin with you, Aaliyah remarked. Everyone, with the possible exception of Aaliyah, missed the Gravity Girl's nervous laugh and slight flush. Well, I do have my friends back home, she said. There's 13 with their search and rescue drive, and they're really great and come from all over just to try to be a pro hero one day, she began. Along with my parents, they always try to help in any way they can. In order to give them a better life and everything, I'm going to become a hero. Uraraka added one last sentence before Aaliyah could accept that response, and I have to say that Deku is also an inspiration. Her response surprised everyone, especially Midoriya. Aaliyah grinned and continued, how so? Well, he's one of my best friends, and I value his help and all, but he gives so much and demands so little. There is something heroic about his drive. Even though he broke the rules a few months ago to save his rival Bakugo from the League of Villains, he will stop at nothing to support his friends. He always finds a way out of situations, is kind, and is passionate about his dreams, she added. Thank you, Gravity, but he is also selfless. God, you ought to have seen him when we took the entrance exam to get into our school. We had to confront this enormous robot villain. 3 of the 4 robot villain types we encountered had points that we needed to pass the test, but this robot had no points at all. I believe it was larger than the Eiffel Tower. Gravity, I don't think. What about Deku? Since everyone was getting to the villains first, he hadn't yet reached any of them. However, everyone turned and fled when the enormous robot appeared, with the exception of Deku. The robot created some debris that trapped me, and rather than fleeing the danger, he ran headlong toward the villain and essentially flew into the air. Cat Noir, who was manning the camera aimed at Aaliyah and Midoriya, focused on Uraraka as she jumped out of her chair to emphasize her point. He flew high into the air with such great power. He screamed so loudly, with his fists balled up, that I believe everyone in every training module heard him. Smash, he yelled, as his fist made contact with the robot, destroying it in a single blow. Whoa, Aaliyah cried out, really? Just one blow? Uraraka nodded and sat down again, her heart still pounding. He risked everything to save me and push the robot back, rather than abandoning me to the robot and earning points elsewhere. Midoriya blushed when she said, he was seriously injured from his attack so he couldn't get up afterward. He's also really nice. Despite his quirk, he took the time to put up with Bakugo's daily harassment of him. He has a strong will and is prepared to take on any challenge in order to realize his dream. He is strong, gentle, and driven, and he never fails to find time to smile when things are difficult. He never gives up on his pals. Aaliyah was already coming up with ship names for the two heroes when Uravity finally descended from her high and saw that Midoriya was covering his masked face. At this point, his blush threatened to burn his mask, and Cat Noir was grinning uncontrollably. Uraraka slumped in her chair after piecing together what had transpired. Can we cut that? Laughing, Aaliyah yelled, no. This is live, as I mentioned. Aaliyah composed herself before turning to face Midoriya, and Uraraka blushed. How about you, Deku? Who inspires you? Well, I'd have to say that All Might was my biggest inspiration, and he still is, Midoriya replied after he had recovered from his humiliation. Who? Every Might. He is the top professional hero in our community. Well, he's now retired, so it was. As a hero, he took the time to save people in any way he could. His smile was his signature. He consistently saved people while grinning, demonstrating that he was reassuring them that they would be safe despite the dire circumstances. He could alter the weather with a single blow and possessed extraordinary strength and speed. It was easy to get to know him and everything because of his charisma. However, he is not my sole source of inspiration. I can't begin to thank Uravity for her kind words, and I have to say that they mean a lot to me, Aaliyah said, raising an eyebrow. In actuality, her compassion and understanding are what support me on a daily basis. She is resilient, motivated, and able to see the positive side of many people. I don't believe she has anything negative to say about certain individuals. And it's not just her too, Uraraka said with a smile. Everyone in our class motivates me to improve, and it's amazing to know that I can motivate someone. I honestly wasn't expecting the people I know to be the way they are. They are all amazing in their own way with these unique quirks and connections, Midoriya went on. I can really be myself around them. Being comfortable around them feels so much better than when I was in middle school, he said, grinning at the recollections. I am appreciative of the friendships I have made while attending UA and their assistance. They inspire me to be a better version of myself, a better hero, he concluded. It sounds like you feel like the luckiest guy in the world, Aaliyah said, grinning throughout his response. The smiled Midoriya said, I think you're right. Well, I have one more standard question for you both, and then we'll open it up to viewer questions after a brief break, Aaliyah grinned. I would like to conclude with another. You two have been in Paris for a long time, and I'm sure you've had some time to get to know our heroes. When they're not wearing the mask, how are they doing? She inquired. Ladybug and Cat Noir grinned as they turned to face one another. Called it, Ladybug mouthed to her partner. Well, Cat Noir is a really cool guy out of costume, Midoriya remarked. He's a bit more reserved at home, Cat chuckled. What is the name of the robot fighting game that he enjoys playing? The Third Ultimate Mecha Strike, Aaliyah speculated. Midoriya yelled, that's fine. Yeah, that's a good game, but my friend Marinette loves that game, the reporter said with a laugh. I think those two would have fun playing some games together, she said. What about Ladybug? Cat Noir asked, smirking as she averted her gaze. Oh, she's a hard worker, Uraraka remarked. She does everything in her power to support her family. Although she has some wonderful friends, I have never observed her engaging in any leisure activities. Aaliyah nodded. All right, so I have to ask you guys this. You guys praised each other so much, and your interactions are adorable. She cried out. Oh no, I must ask, is there a relationship between the two of you? She said, I'm sure the audience would love some insight. Uraraka unintentionally used her quirk on herself to float to the roof, and the question struck them both in the same direction. No. No, there isn't, she cried out. As Ladybug assisted Uraraka back to her seat, Aaliyah was essentially laughing at their reactions. Midoriya, who was also burning red, covered his face with his mask and shook his head violently without saying anything. I'm teasing. You two seem like good friends, that's all, Aaliyah acknowledged. Act somewhat like lifelong companions as well. All right, I think you guys need some time to collect yourselves, the two heroes said, too embarrassed to speak. Before we resume the interview, we will take a brief break. Additionally, there is still time for viewers to submit their own queries for our new heroes. Please submit your questions as Ladybug, Cat Noir, and I will be facilitating the conversation for an additional hour. With a sly smile, Aaliyah leaned into the camera and said, and make them interesting. The interview resumed when Ladybug and Cat Noir hit the live button on the phones. Welcome back, Aaliyah said, holding a bunch of index cards. Thank you all for your participation. I regret to inform you that while Ladybug, Cat Noir, and I were going over the questions, we discovered a few that were published anonymously. These inquiries were improper and did not accurately represent the Ladyblog. The users were located and muted for a month after the questions were removed. Families and children use the Ladyblog, and posting offensive material is prohibited. Let's start with that in mind. Midoriya and Uraraka, who were across from Aaliyah, had anxious expressions on their faces. Do we want to know? Maybe when you're older, Aaliyah said, blushing slightly but shaking her head. That's what fanfiction is for, Uraraka said with a facepalm and an embarrassed groan. In any case, let's begin. Wait, the three of us came up with a list of inquiries aimed at these two. Unless the question is posed to both of them, either may respond. Now, let's begin. Deku was the primary target of this, but you can respond as well, Uravity. Since you indicated that some of your friends serve as your heroes, could you please tell me more about who your friends are? This is Coolgirl 526. What are their quirks and who are they? She inquired. Midoriya smiled. Where do I even start? Well, perhaps both of us should respond. Go first, Deku, Uraraka commanded. All right, first up is Todoroki Shoto, he wrote on the whiteboard he had previously used. Aaliyah noticed that he was not writing in French, so Midoriya showed her the name, which had been written in Japanese before being translated into French. He has two quirks really. Fire and ice, Midoriya said. Aaliyah remarked, sounds conflicting. He has red hair on his left side and white on his right, Uraraka said, nodding. She added, he also has a burn mark on his left eye, but that's where he controls fire. On his right, he controls ice. Wow, that sounds really strong. He must be a terrific party animal, the reporter said. Uraraka took her board and said, one of my friends is Yaoyorozu Momo. She wrote her name and displayed it to the world, adding, her quirk is creation. Midoriya grinned. She is capable of making things out of her own body and using them in a variety of contexts. Like Ladybug, sort of. Aaliyah cried out. But there is a limit, the heroes said, nodding. Todoroki will start to freeze if he uses ice for an extended period of time. Yaoyorozu can only produce as long as she has the necessary energy. Anything she consumes fuels her quirk, Uraraka went on. Swords with two edges, Aaliyah inquired. There's Jiro Kyoka, whose quirk is earphone jack, Uraraka said with a nod. Now, she has a mutation quirk, which means that her quirk affects how she looks, Midoriya started. Her earlobes were essentially transformed into headphone jacks by her quirk. Uraraka went on. She can control them and use them to attack, conduct reconnaissance, or even just listen to music. Well, that's unfair. How many teenagers would adore that? There's Sato Rikido, whose quirk is Sugar Rush, Uraraka said with a smile. Basically, when he consumes 10 grams of sugar, his strength increases threefold. By consuming more, he can strengthen himself and prolong his strength, Midoriya stated. Because he needs to bake for his quirk, he is also an excellent baker. Recalling the cake he made when they visited their dorms, Uraraka went on, to be honest, he's the guy to go to for a late-night sweets craving. Don't make me hungry, Aaliyah said. There are just a lot of our friends to list, really, Uraraka stated. All right, said Aaliyah, nodding. This is one from Sneaky Fox, then. Can you guys be akumatized since you don't have Miraculouses? inquired Sneaky Fox. The ladybug knew that came from Lila as the two heroes exchanged glances. You guys know about akumatization, right? A little bit, acknowledged Uraraka. All right. Hawkmoth infects the populace by using his magic. He targets potential victims by motivating them with their negative feelings. Miraculous's shield heroes from akumatization, which is likely what Sneaky Fox believes, Aaliyah clarified. Well, one of the things we learned at UA, Uraraka shrugged, was that negative things do occur. Although villains may gain the upper hand and we are unable to save everyone, we can still overcome the obstacles if we remain vigilant and committed to saving lives, she said. When Kachan was taken by the League, Midoriya concurred. Aaliyah looked strange. I'm sorry, I call him Kachan, but his name is Bakugo. In any case, even though we knew it was against the rules, we were determined to get him back when he was taken by the League rather than feeling sad or afraid, Midoriya went on. It seems like there was a lot going on. Anyway, what happened there? The two heroes looked at each other before Midoriya started to explain the situation, starting with the summer camp they all attended and how the League attacked them, then how Bakugo was taken out from under their noses and their mission to bring him back against the advice of the police and the pros. However, Uraraka disclosed that she didn't support the plan at the time, explaining that the professionals knew what they were doing and that getting involved would have only made things worse. She also explained that, in the end, that stunt nearly brought everyone to the point of punishment. After giving their choice some thought, Aaliyah went on, all right, I can see the struggle there. I'm not sure if I would have acted in the same way. Well, let's move on for the time being. What does All Might look like? This is for Deku from X Prime, she inquired. Uraraka grinned as Midoriya grinned, saying, he was the greatest hero in Japan. He stood at around 200 centimeters, 7 feet tall and had a lot of muscle. Perhaps the world's most powerful man. Hold on, I've got a photo of him. He picked up his phone and handed it to Aaliyah, whose eyes widened at the picture of the professional athlete. He was tall and huge, with every muscle appearing larger than her head and Chloe's ego. His eyes were dark, and there were some shadows on his face. His short blonde hair was combed back neatly, and he had the biggest smile on his face. Since Uraraka didn't have a picture of All Might on her phone, this was Ladybug's first, and Aaliyah presented it to the cameras. So, why did he retire? Well, it was when Kachan was taken, Uraraka said, gesturing for Midoriya to respond in her place as the two heroes exchanged glances. All Might and a group of professional heroes found him after he was enlisted in the League of Villains. I am grateful to Yaoyorozu. As they removed him, Uraraka broke in, she made a tracking dot and device and planted it on him. Midoriya nodded. In any case, after they saved him, All Might was confronted by another villain. He referred to himself as All for One. As he uttered his name, the atmosphere became somewhat colder. All Might prevailed after a prolonged battle, but at the expense of his quirk. He retired because he hasn't been able to muster the courage to go on since. Must have been a hell of a battle, Aaliyah said. Midoriya nodded. We'll get right to that because you didn't respond to a portion of my previous question. How long will you two be in Paris? I asked earlier. Do you have any thoughts on that? Probably another few weeks, Uraraka shrugged. Unfortunately, we are unable to make it permanent, she stated. Sad. If you stayed, you could definitely aid in Hawkmoth's capture. Aaliyah pondered. I can picture the epic team-up that would put the Avengers to shame if you guys, Ladybug and Cat Noir, Rena Rouge and Carapace, and even Queen Bee, all teamed up and took him down. Ladybug shook her head at her friend's antics, giving them all too much credit, and laughed softly. Anyway, let's go on, she said. H0 Lee Bug asked, Uravity, where did you make your costume and where can I get one? With a smile, Uraraka picked at her attire and said, I got it from the school. The school asked us to submit a costume idea so they could create one after we were accepted. It might also be a variation of concepts, but in essence, they are made by experts. She clarified, I believe they gave me some paperwork about my costume, so I'm sure you can make your own. According to Aaliyah, it does look very tight, Uravity. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't submit anything regarding the actual look of it, the Gravity Girl said with a sheepish smile. I had to make do with what I already had. And those things on the wrist. These, Uraraka demonstrated her wrist clamps to the camera, saying, they apply pressure to particular areas of my wrist to prevent nausea. My boots and helmet are no different. I can also land from a big fall without suffering any major injuries thanks to the boots. Oh God Nino, said Aaliyah, nodding. DJ number. Well, DJ No asks, will your friends be visiting Paris in the future? She read, they seem like really cool guys. Well, I don't know, Midoriya thought to himself, I hope not. It's up to them because some of them don't like to travel, Uraraka falsely claimed. I see, Aaliyah thought for a moment. You wouldn't know they were in Paris, would you? Maybe if Hagakure was in town, Uraraka said. Who is she? One of our classmates is her. Invisibility is one of her quirks. We can hardly tell she's there at all if she's dressed like a hero, the Gravity Girl clarified. What is her superhero attire? A pair of gloves and boots. For a moment, the room was silent as Aaliyah took it all in. Do you mean that her clothes? She asked. Uraraka smirked as she remarked, they float. And if they're gloves and boots? Uraraka was accustomed to it by now, but Midoriya blushed beneath his mask as the heroes nodded. Aaliyah's face burned when she realized that she could turn the invisibility on and off. We don't know, Midoriya remarked, adding, she hasn't explained it. I hope it doesn't turn off in the middle of battle, said Aaliyah, nodding. That would be very uncomfortable. So here's one question that I found interesting, and either of you can answer it, the heroes said, nodding in agreement. Jailargant poses the question. There must be villains in a world full of heroes. Have any of you encountered villains? Both of them nodded. Unfortunately, we met some barely into our first year at UA, said Midoriya. We had villains gunning for us because we had All Might as one of our teachers. There was one villain whose quirk had to do with teleportation, Uraraka said, nodding. He could teleport anyone he desired, and his body was composed of a purple mist. She clarified, it was used to keep us apart so we wouldn't fight together. Additionally, there were villains of the electricity type. There were some common grunts, fighter types, but some of the ones we personally encountered were worse, Midoriya remarked. There was one villain, well, it was one of many of the same type. It was known as Nomu. They nodded. There are a few things to be aware of when it comes to quirks. They can be strong and noticeable or more understated and unobtrusive. The human body can only hold one quirk, but it can be a combination of any of them. Maybe two, but that's uncommon, Midoriya started. The Nomu are distinct from the typical human. They aren't always human, to start. Oh God, we discovered that the Nomu were either criminals or people that society forgot. The larger criminal underworld experimented on them and made them hold several quirks until they were stronger than they had been. The green hero went on, the USJ incident was the first Nomu we fought. The Joint Unforeseen Simulation Session. It's a sizable facility that enables us to practice in emergency situations, Uraraka said. The Nomu we encountered was specifically designed to eliminate All Might upon his arrival, Aaliyah said, nodding. He possessed shock absorption, cellular regeneration, and strength quirks. Because it was so powerful, we nearly believed he couldn't defeat it. Nevertheless, All Might sent it hurtling through the USJ. How many hits did Deku deal this time? Uraraka inquired. 300 straight hits. It was too quick for the Nomu to recover and too powerful for it to take the blows, Midoriya remarked, adding that each one was stronger and faster than the one before it. There is one villain. Well, he is the worst villain we have ever seen, and thankfully we haven't fought him, Uraraka remarked. The Miraculous heroes in the room were stunned, and viewers throughout Paris could only imagine the commitment and power All Might truly possessed. One for all, you mean the villain you described earlier. His quirk enables him to take quirks from other people and force them on others, the two said, nodding. Midoriya remarked, All Might had previously stated that All for One has been around for probably 100 years. The quirks that are particularly powerful for him are the ones he keeps for himself. There has been discussion about whether he created the Nomu race to either kill or wear us down. This definitely reminds me a little of Moth. She said, obviously he has never won. He gives Ladybug and Cat Noir's Miraculous's power. Ladybug, who didn't want to give him a chance to win, nodded. All right, now for a fun question for you two from Caliban. If you could pick your own quirk, what would it be? Uraraka said, good question there, and Aaliyah loved the two heroes' pleasant, cheery smiles as they laughed. I don't know if I have an answer to that question, Midoriya remarked. After giving it some thought, they both said, well, I'm not really sure. For a while, I considered having Momo's quirk. You mean she's creation? Uraraka gave a nod. I've also thought about Mr. Aizawa's erasure quirk, or even Deku's. Mine. Why, obviously, without the risk of severe harm. She acknowledged. I mean, come on, it's a pretty cool quirk, especially when you're jumping around all over the place. It would be very difficult without ginger ale or other nausea-curing stuff if you had my quirk and you wanted to move around like that. After giving it some thought, Midoriya said, fair deal, adding, as for me, I don't know. Although Jiro's earphone jack is really cool, it has a lot of problems. Additionally, Kaminari's quirk is quite pleasant. Who? A friend of ours. Electricity is one of his quirks. In an area without support equipment, he can fire up to 1 million volts of electricity, but now that he has it, he can use it in a sharpshooter fashion. The sole disadvantage is, use over a 1 million and it fries your brain, Uraraka concluded. Wow, that's a lot of power. If he's not careful, he could cause serious harm to someone, Aaliyah said. Midoriya sighed. No one has been seriously hurt by it, except some villains and, well, him frying his brain means he sort of loses it a little. To keep Aaliyah from noticing, Uraraka stopped laughing. Anyway, Kaminari's quirk is nice. Although Ojiro's tail quirk is lovely, I don't think I would like it. After giving his response some more thought, he said, well, I think I'd go for teleportation, only for enjoyment. I thought you would want something like All Might's quirk, Deku, Uraraka said with a smile. Midoriya's face lit up and he quickly averted his gaze, recalling a moment when he had wished for a quirk similar to All Might's. Yeah, I thought about it too, he stumbled. All right, we have time for a few more questions, Ladybug said with a smile. Actually, this one came from my school friend Alex. I'm just going to ask since I'm positive I know who followed up on it. To Deku. How fast can you go with your power? She said, I'd love to race you sometime. I'm not sure, Midoriya said with a smile. Perhaps one day, just to be sure, we could find out. However, if I'm not careful, I might accidentally blast past you with my quirk's help, he cautioned. I'm sure she would take that as a fun challenge, said Aaliyah with a smile. Speaking of fun, Tatsurian has another one for you. How are you all doing? I think I know who sent this one too, Aaliyah read, smiling. You seem to be getting teased quite a bit. Half-heartedly, the two heroes laughed. We're fine, Midoriya said. Your earlier question about us being a thing, well, we're just really good friends, Uraraka said. Really good, was what Midoriya repeated. We have participated in both our first training exercise and the sports festival as a team, and we are good classmates. We're at ease with one another and have a great deal of affection for one another, Uraraka added. We saved each other at the entrance exam and overall have just forged a bond with each other, Midoriya concluded, nodding. We're happy. Still shipping them, Aaliyah grinned. How adorable. Alright, folks, before we conclude, I have one more question. Thus, there have been plenty of villains in Paris, and Ladybug and Cat Noir have not let us down. However, since you all enroll in hero courses and the like, I would like to know what constitutes a hero. Leaning in to hear the response, Aaliyah found herself doing so. The pair exchanged a smile and said, to never give up. Everyone in Paris was actually leaning in to hear the response. In the face of great chaos, we must be ready to save others. And to interfere when the situation gets worse. To be ready to accept the risks. To understand them. And still act to save the people you care about. Is what makes a hero. Cat Noir and Ladybug grinned. Excellent word choice. Aaliyah couldn't resist grinning too. Wonderful response. We don't have much time, even though I would really like you all to stay for my interview. She added, I want to thank you guys once more for coming over and answering some questions. And thank you for your assistance, Ladybug and Cat Noir, the two heroes grinned. I do have some cookies in the kitchen, Cat Noir, so we can snack later. All right, everyone, Ladybug said, shifting the camera just in time to see Cat Noir raising his hands in joy. Once again, I appreciate you listening and sending in your inquiries. I wish everyone a pleasant remainder of the day. As the heroes and Aaliyah cheered and started to socialize, Ladybug and Cat Noir stopped the capture on the phones, bringing the livestream to a close. As Midoriya and Uraraka discussed some of their earlier responses, Aaliyah turned to Ladybug, and she made the decision to inform Ladybug that she was aware of it that morning. She needed an excuse to leave her alone, and now she had one. All right, everybody. While Ladybug and I go over the livestream statistics, you guys are free to socialize for a short while. Savor the cookies. While Cat and Uraraka grabbed some cookies, Ladybug and Aaliyah went to her room. After following Aaliyah into her room, Ladybug heard Aaliyah shut the door behind her, and the doorknob clicked, alerting her that she wasn't there to review the statistics from the most recent interview. I apologize, Ladybug, I can't keep keeping it from you, and I needed to get some things off my chest, Aaliyah said, sounding as though she was trembling. She quickly pushed the image from her mind, but it was still vivid in her memory. Ladybug was on the bed with Aaliyah pinning her down, and although she loved Aaliyah as a great friend, she had no interest in such a relationship, and no amount of alcohol or other magical inducement could make her change her mind. With a nervous grin, the spotted heroine turned around and said, "Hey Aaliyah, what's going on?" She inquired. Ladybug, the journalist said, sighing and averting his gaze as he tried to gather the courage to reveal the truth. Look, Ladybug, I need to be straight with you about some things, and I can't just keep it to myself for a while, she said, causing Ladybug's heart rate to spike. I definitely didn't tell Nino or seek his counsel just to be safe. Dear God, look, I know, Aaliyah growled to herself. Look Aaliyah, I admire how much you want to get back out there, but... Ladybug said, taken aback by her outburst. Aaliyah had a lot to say, as evidenced by the seriousness in her eyes and breathing. It's not that, no, Aaliyah exclaimed, I promise, it has nothing to do with the Miraculous, Rena Rouge, and all of that stuff. Ladybug sighed with relief. Oh. Then wah. I know it's you, Aaliyah deadpanned. All right, I know it's you, and I didn't want to know because the Ladyblog's sole purpose will now be to record your triumph over Hawkmoth, but I really can't get too excited about it at this point. I'm aware, and I've been thinking about it for a while. I'm sorry I learned in the best way possible, but I can't just go around saying I know because it will seem like I'm betraying your confidence and... Aaliyah. Ladybug seized Aaliyah and restrained her. What's happening? What are you aware of? Sighing, Aaliyah said, Marinette. Her courage was shaken by hearing her own name, and she took a step back, wide-eyed, hoping Cat Noir wasn't crying. Wah-ha. I know it's you, girl, she responded. There is no need to hide now. Ladybug sighed and slumped over, hanging her head in shame as her jaw fell to the ground. Spots off. Tiki sat on Marinette's head as the two best friends stood opposite each other. Hi Aaliyah, she said as pink energy swirled around the hero to reveal Marinette's civilian form. Aaliyah was still in disbelief at the transformation, now validating her earlier suspicions.
Hello, Aaliyah said with a smile to the Kwami. What's your name?
Tiki.
It's nice to finally meet you, Aaliyah, she remarked.
Likewise.
Turning to her friend, who was still embarrassed that her identity had been exposed, she meekly waved her hand at Aaliyah. Hey Aaliyah, she whispered. What's up?
Smiling, Aaliyah crossed her arms and said, how long have you known? I kinda figured something was up after Sapides, Aaliyah said. Though, it sealed the deal when you left me in your room to fight an Akuma several months ago. Marinette grimaced. You witnessed my metamorphosis. No, but you disappeared when I followed you after leaving to get some air on the roof. Ladybug showed up at the fight scene at the same time, and you were nowhere to be seen, Aaliyah explained. It was some sort of connecting the dots with your disappearances and excuses that gave me the information I needed. This isn't the first time an identity was revealed by investigation alone, Tiki said, chuckling quietly to herself as Marinette's mouth fell open. Great work Aaliyah. Why yeah, great work Aaliyah, her charge repeated after nodding. Oh girl, I'm just glad you're alright, said Aaliyah, grinning and reaching out to embrace her best friend. She waggled her eyebrows and said, I mean, taking down Akumas every day must be really exhausting, not to mention fumbling with a certain blonde model. Saying, okay now you're being mean, Marinette pushed Aaliyah away while suppressing her laughter. Aaliyah chuckled, I mean it. In the event that something goes wrong and an Akuma shows up, I can now truly cover for you. I guess you can call me your wing girl now. With a smile, Marinette said, yeah, you can. For a moment, Aaliyah averted her gaze. So, those two. They're in the know, nodded the pig-tailed heroine. She remarked, Cat Noir and I are a little annoyed that they know who we are but we can't. However, why not inform him? Is Adrian to blame? Marinette covered Aaliyah's mouth with her hand and said, stop talking. I'm not sure if Cat Noir is currently paying attention to us. Moof morph mop, muttered Aaliyah. What? Of course not, I said, as Aaliyah withdrew her hand. Those cookies are delicious, fresh, and hot. Besides, his senses are enhanced but I doubt he has super hearing, she assured her friend. I doubt he is even paying attention right now.
As Marinette thought, well, that would explain things. So what's next, Aaliyah? Tiki grinned. In the past, a few Chosens have had their identities disclosed to friends and family, and they sort of work out, she said. What? It has occurred. Aaliyah shrugged and said, well, I'm not going to tell anyone your secret. She grinned and said, but, that doesn't mean that I'll stop bugging you about tricks or anything. Now I can bug you anywhere I want to. I'll be sure to invest in earplugs, Marinette joked, laughing. However, at this point, you truly have no justification for not speaking to Adrian. Girl, you should have no trouble conversing with him because you possess the bravery and strength of a superhero, Aaliyah went on, and we need to work on your awkwardness. I have no issue talking to Adrian, Marinette said, turning away. As Ladybug, as a typical Marinette, however, she said, it's always be le, ek, woo and all that jazz. Outside the room, Uraraka and Cat Noir were occupied with watching videos on Midoriya's phone as he helped himself to some cookies, while Marinette playfully pushed her away as they both laughed. So you guys get to use all of that equipment? Cat Noir asked after viewing some of the footage from the sports festival and the cavalry battle. Uraraka grinned. Hatsume's tech was great and all, but I was the one making them work without any issues, she said. Until the boots broke. He whistled as he saw a wall of ice form in front of her cavalry team, and Cat kept watching the video. That looks cold. Cool, huh, Uraraka grinned. The sound of laughter from Aaliyah's room reached the three of them as Midoriya took a seat beside them. Uraraka got up and gave Midoriya his phone, saying, I'm gonna check up on them, as she made her way to the room. Cat grinned at Midoriya after she had left her line of sight. So what's up? What's going on? Midoriya gulped down some milk and asked. Oh you know, Cat said, wriggling his brows beneath his mask. Your guy's response to the question about inspiration. How did you feel about Uraraka praising you so much? I could see that beneath your mask, you were blazing red. It was just well. Snatching a cookie from Midoriya's plate, Cat Noir said, hey now, it's alright. I mean, she just spoke the world of you and said you were her inspiration to be a hero. You must have had a feeling. Well, I really did appreciate her words, Midoriya said, chuckling nervously as he considered what he had said. It's just that hearing them feels strange. Oh, see, when I was growing up, I was being picked on non-stop for not having a quirk, Midoriya said, setting down his plate. He closed his eyes to recall the history books he had read back home. Regardless of your nationality or any other distinguishing characteristic, if you had a quirk, you had instant respect, he said, adding that 80% of the population of our world had some sort of power while everyone else was absolutely normal. If you don't have one, the world treats you like a mistake. But, hearing that I'm Uraraka's inspiration to be a better hero, it's weird, Cat said, gazing at the ground while imagining the discrimination he faced. Despite being ridiculed, ignored, and even blown up by Kachan's quirk on a few occasions, I'm still here. He blushed and covered his face. I have a quirk now, and it's my drive that inspired her the most. I appreciate it. I'm happy to be an inspiration to others. It's not only her, either. Some of my classmates, I've heard, have a kind of motto. WWMD, how would Midoriya respond? I really did like her words the most though, and, he said with a small laugh. Hey now, it's cool, said Cat, grinning and giving him a back pat. I mean, I can only imagine the struggles you faced prior to acquiring your quirk. Because I was born into a particular family, I was being judged before I received my miracle. I don't believe she respects your power at all, but I wanted to show everyone that I wanted to fit in. She has been inspired by your drive, as you mentioned. With the exception of Ladybug, I have no experience in the field of admiration, but I'd say she admires you a lot, Midoriya grinned. I mean, you're hilarious, incredibly intelligent, and incredibly kind. It's just a bonus to have your quirk, Cat added. Yes, obviously. Consider this. She would still think highly of you because of your can-do attitude and selflessness if you didn't have your quirk. If there is more to that admiration than that, I wouldn't be shocked. Though they were both ignorant of the small corner in the adjacent hallway that concealed Uraraka's form, the quirk inheritor's face was buried in his hands as his face burned bright red as he considered his statement. Cat's smile widened. Not intending to, but forced by Cat's earlier question to wait until she decided she had heard enough, she had listened to everything the two had said, not just a brief exchange of words, but Midoriya's story and his thoughts. His words made Uraraka's heart race, so she took a few moments to gather herself before carrying out her investigation. She knocked softly on the door, hoping the boys wouldn't hear it squeak. Uraraka whispered, "It's me," as Aaliyah carefully opened the door after going over some of the data from the livestream on the other side. Marinette nodded her approval as the reporter turned to face her. With haste, Aaliyah opened and closed the door. She said, "Hey, what's up? Are we out of cookies yet?" The Gravity Girl turned to face the civilian version of Ladybug and said, "No, but your milk supply is running low," and I heard laughter sigh. When Marinette made a hushing motion with her finger, she almost freaked out. The woman said, "It's okay, she already figured me out." Uraraka let out a sigh. Aaliyah grinned, "Ah, good, I guess. So, secret identities, right?" The girls chuckled. Marinette replied, "Yeah, I accidentally revealed her identity a while ago. And Nino still can't believe I'm Rena Rouge. Honestly, I don't think he can be shocked anymore, unless Adrian is Cat Noir or something," Aaliyah said. Before revealing anything, Uraraka had to bite her tongue. To be fair, he came out after she spent a patrol with him. Yeah, that'd be weird. Who is he again? Like a Cheshire cat, Aaliyah smiled. Meanwhile, Marinette looked at her best friend. Aaliyah. Girl, you gotta summon up that ladybug courage and ask that boy out already. I don't care who Kagami is either. Wait, who? The girl who has Adrian's current attention. She's Miss Perfect from a ideal family and all of that, and neither Marinette nor Chloe like her in the slightest, Aaliyah stated. Uraraka continued the conversation without responding to her query. Anyway, I wanted to check in on you guys since we all heard laughter coming from in here, she said. The hair on Marinette stood up. Cat Noir hasn't heard us, has he? Maybe not the conversations, but he is wondering what's going on, I bet, she continued. Aaliyah's arms were crossed. He better not be eavesdropping. I'd hate for all of our identities to be revealed like this, she replied. There wouldn't be any fun in that. Grinning, Uraraka turned to her desktop. She questioned, "So are those the numbers?" Aaliyah's expression brightened. "Oh yeah, people loved the interview as well as you guys. A couple of threads have already opened up and I'm monitoring some group chats with a few mods. Of course, there are a few shipping forums too. Already there are a few Ladybug x Deku chats," she continued. When Uraraka heard that, he stiffened. Marinette and Tiki both grimaced. What is it with people and shipping? Girl, you ship yourself with Adrian, so hush, Aaliyah shot back. Uraraka looked at the computer as the pig-tailed hero slapped her best friend. As expected, there were some Ladybug x Deku threads and conversations on the internet, but there were also some Uravity x Deku conversations. Fan art and interview clips were already posted in some threads, which were dubbed Dekuravati. Internet users are incredibly productive. As Marinette and Aaliyah conversed behind her, she thought, good thing Mina hasn't seen these, otherwise I'd never hear the end of it. She discovered a Dekuravati chat after looking through a few open chats. Inside, a fan art piece had appeared and people were swooning over the two. It featured a costumed Deku jumping into the air to defeat a gigantic robot. Uraraka was lying on the ground, protruding from some debris. Where it all began, was the caption. As she scrolled on, the Gravity Girl kind of agreed. Aaliyah concluded an argument by saying, hence why self-insert fanfics are bad. It wasn't a self-insert. Well, technically. It was, Marinette, Tiki shot back. The chosen heroine yelled, why aren't you taking my side? Uraraka turned back to them, perplexed as to why they were discussing fanfiction. What are you guys talking about? As Marinette frowned at her best friend, Aaliyah bit her tongue. She's teasing me about Adrian again, she complained. Uraraka suppressed her chuckles. She was definitely reminded of Mina by it. The apartment was rocked by an explosion before she could say anything. Before the bedroom door flew open and Midoriya charged with his quirk, Marinette called out her transformation. Villains, said he. Ladybug let out a sigh. Come on Uravity, we gotta get out there, she called urgently, adding, we'll talk more later. They departed via the room's patio and went into the city with Cat Noir. As they all vanished into the city, Aaliyah let out a sigh. Good luck Marinette. After flying into an open section of the cave, two of the shadowed creatures were ejected and returned to the darkness. The chaos that erupted in the midst of them all gradually thinned a small crowd of shadows. The Miraculous Master Guardian, greatly outnumbered, used his powerful shield to cut through his adversaries in his transformed form. Master Fu's body was constantly flooded with magic as he battled his foes. Wei's strength and the training he had received so long ago were the only things for which he was grateful. The monsters were propelled into whatever they struck with each blow of the shield before exploding in a column of black fire. The fire quickly went out and left no burn marks, though it's possible that Fu couldn't see them because it was dark. In any case, he became increasingly aware that they were just as good at fighting as he was the more he engaged them. Before avoiding a claw from another shadow, he swept one and launched it into the air. The old master was quickly surrounded by an increasing number of shadows. The monsters swiftly surrounded him as soon as he felt the shield's weight on his arm. After snatching his arms and discarding his shield, they began to claw at him. Fortunately, they only tore at his armor. Wei started to panic as Fu struggled. "Master, they're draining me of my power. I can't hold on for too long," he yelled. Fu swore as he struggled to break free. Within himself, he sensed the magic waning. Pulling his arm back with his waist, he planted himself. As he did so, he threw one of the shadows backwards, releasing his arm and breaking its stance. Now that he was free, Fu skillfully kicked the rib cage of another shadow, assuming it had one at all. Leaping for his shield, he freed his other arm. Wei's started to feel his energy dwindle as he poured his magic into the shield. Shell shock. Before Fu smashed the shield into another shadow, it glowed green. Every shadow in the vicinity was driven far away by the energy's dispersion before they broke apart. A green light flooded the area before it subsided once more. Fu started to breathe heavily. He felt his strength waning because it took too much effort to escape the situation. Knowing he only had a few minutes left, his Miraculous started beeping quickly. He looked around the cave for any sign that he was on the correct path. He kept searching until he came across a set of enormous rosewood doors concealed in a cave's shadows. The sound of feral growling from behind him stopped him as he ran toward it. Despite the size of the cave system, he was aware of what was in store for him. Above the cave from which he had come, he hurled his shield at the ceiling. It collapsed because some of the energy from the shell shock was still present in the impact. Fortunately, a few of the shadows were destroyed before they could approach him. Fu rushed through the doors, shield in hand. 180 years ago. "Wong, get out of here." The young Wong Fu awoke from his slumber in a panic. As an explosion broke out above him, his master had stormed into his room with a terrified expression on his face. "Wong, listen to me. The old masters will be looking for you. Get out of here before they find you." Wong rushed out the door, grabbing his burlap sack. Students and masters with very little in the way of supplies ran past him as he ran. The masters wore Miraculouses or amulets. Miraculouses were only worn by masters. Fu's eyes widened in terror as soon as he entered the courtyard. In the center of the yard, a monstrous golden beast engaged in combat with multiple master guardians. Lapis arrows and columns of fire were aimed at the beast. The wild animal was not placated by either. "Child, stop." When Wong turned around, he saw three masters sprinting in his direction. They had no choice but to pursue him after he fled in a panic. It was, "Transform me," they cried. Wong heard more explosions outside the temple as he dashed through it. Access to the majority of the building was blocked by the crumbling hallways, some of which had completely collapsed. Wong ran into a Grandmaster after jumping over a fallen support beam. The Grandmasters wore white robes with gold trimmings, in contrast to the regular masters, who all wore maroon robes. The Grandmaster glanced at Wong and put his hand on his shoulder rather than attempting to seize him. "Wong, you need to run." "Grandmaster, you want me to?" "Yes, Wong, I know about your secret exits to the town below. The masters can contain the beast, but you need to get the Miraculouses out of here. You'll find them in the sub-level vault just a little bit down the hallway," he said. "Sir, To silence him, the Grandmaster held up his hand. Another explosion shook the compound as he was doing it. On his advice, "Run, Wong. Protect the Miraculouses." Wang's eyes were wide as he stood. The Grandmaster left Wong in the hallway and went back to the room from which he had come, saying, "Our sins can be cleansed, Wong. Have faith and you will be forgiven." Wong ignored the Master's cries for him to stop running down the hall, taking the Grandmaster's warning to heart. Outside, as more explosions shook the area, he heard the beast's roar. A set of rosewood doors stood before him as he turned into a room. He stormed through the doors. As the doors closed behind him, Master Fu let out a sigh. For now, he was safe from the shadows. He hunched over, attempting to gather his thoughts and catch his breath. He didn't succeed. Ways would be swiftly taken away from the magic in the air and banished from the miraculous in a matter of seconds. With no way to resist them, he would be at the mercy of the shadows all around him. As he swore to himself, the shield fell from his grasp. Ways, I'm sorry. Beside him, the translucent Kwame materialized. It's okay, Master. Considering the circumstances, I wouldn't put it past you. You did what was best for both of us. If those shadows harnessed my power, we have no idea what would have happened. He sighed. I don't want to imagine it. Me neither, Fu uttered. Ya know, Master, you came a long way since that day. From student to master, and now, well, I think you are the most talented guardian I've ever met, said Ways. Fu grinned. Thank you, Ways. I only hope you meet another human when time runs out, he said with solemnity. So we should make the most of this time. Every second is precious in this world and I'd love to spend them in your service, Master. Fu attempted to pet Ways' head with a smile. He stopped himself before he could. Ways. Yes, he said, do you hear running water? When the two peered out, they saw something they had never seen before. There was another cavern in front of them that was glowing blue. The sound the two had heard was that of a cascading waterfall. Other than another set of doors, there were no shadow-forming dark spots or other entrances. After exchanging glances, Ways and Fu moved closer to the spring. Fu could already feel the air getting cleaner as he got closer. His stomach protested the lack of food as the aroma of warm, buttery goods filled his nostrils. The waterfall cascaded into a tiny pond with glistening water. Fu was amazed by the show. The Master Guardian knelt at the pond's edge and stopped before he could touch the water. When he looked outside, he saw that the water was not coming from a hole. Ways, where is that coming from? The Kwame didn't say anything. For the old master, his silence was deafening. Ways. Master. The hairs on the nape of his neck stood erect. A young woman was standing behind him when he turned his back on the pond. She had on a golden belt and a white chiton dress. There was a golden laurel in her long jet black hair. Her skin was a sickly bluish green, but she was still beautiful. Curious, she cocked her head. Not many would dare to drink from my spring, especially a mortal like yourself, said the woman. Wong Fu, the last guardian of the Miraculous. Color me surprised to find you down here. The elderly master was stunned. Am mortal, yes, see, I have a lifespan that'll end with humanity, which makes me an immortal. You are simply a man with a predictable lifespan, which makes you mortal, she said. Unlike the others, I actually like mortals though, so you're lucky. Master Fu kept his gaze fixed on the woman. Ways materialized beside him and recognized the woman right away. Fair lady, it's an honor to meet you. Fair lady, Fu asked. When Ways approached, the woman grinned. As Fu watched in amazement, she gave the Kwame's head a tender scratch. I'm sorry, but who? The lady rolled her eyes. Leave it to the old masters to ignore the works of minor immortals. Honestly, I just happened to bestow heaven's greatest weapon to humanity and I suddenly get all the flack from it. The good man kept examining the woman. The Titan Prometheus was the only immortal who ever gave humanity anything valuable before being punished. And he gave the mortals only the knowledge of fire. Honestly, humans and swords do not go well together, at all. Master Fu recognized her. Why, you're the Lady of the Lake. The woman who gifted King Arthur with the sword Excalibur. The woman grinned. The one and only. On the surface, Heracles, the god of heroes, stood in the ruined temple's courtyard. Only the courtyard was snow-free, even though the rest of the area was engulfed in a raging storm. Instead of controlling Master Fu's advancement, Heracles used his power to keep an eye on his surroundings. The people of the world were divided into two categories, ordinary mortals and heroes. The mortals were rendered marble white, while the heroes were given a colored appearance. Heracles looked around the globe, concentrating on Paris. Because of the Miraculouses, the city had a good number of ordinary mortals and a good number of heroes. But he kept an eye on the four main heroes. Izuku Midoriya, Ochako Uraraka, Marinette Dupan Chang, Adrian Agreste. You're all interesting specimens indeed, the deity said to himself. He concentrated on the extra-dimensional heroes. Heracles observed a sense of power surrounding Uraraka and Midoriya. He initially thought it was because they were extraterrestrial. Then he became aware of something strange about them. There was another figure hanging around the two of them, mostly Izuku. It appeared to be a hero, but then he noticed that the hero's form was glitching. Heracles was troubled by this. The figure didn't look as solid as the others, but he knew it was a hero. As he kept his attention on the world, the god sighed. All of a sudden, the world gave him a rush of power. When he realized where the power was coming from, his eyes snapped open. He vanished in a blaze of light, his eyes glowing gold.
I will continue the story in next part. Till then, bye bye.